Hello everyone, welcome back to the Ryan Retro channel. Today we have three great pieces of news. First of all, the Retroid Pocket 5 is now shipping. If you buy the Retroid Pocket 5, it's now being shipped out to customers. So if you'd like to buy one, please check out my affiliate link in the description that takes you to the official Retroid website where you can buy one for yourself. The same place I bought my one. The second piece of news for you today is that my channel is now officially 2 weeks old. Yes, I've now been running this YouTube channel for 2 weeks and I'm overwhelmed by the positive reactions I've had to this channel. Thank you so much to everyone who liked, commented, subscribed and used my affiliate link. It's been incredible to share this journey with you so far and I'm so excited for the future. And that brings us to the third great piece of news. My channel is now monetized! I can now make money from these videos, so please continue to watch my future content. It really means a lot to me. So in order to celebrate all of these things coming together at the same time, I've put together this compilation of all of my tips, tricks, and tests so far. If you've already watched these videos, feel free to go back to the individual ones again, but I thought it would be nice to put them all together into one long binge-worthy video like this and collect that sweet, sweet ad revenue. So if you'd like to watch all of the episodes one by one, here is the place to do it. I hope this will be fun and interesting for anyone whose Retroid Pocket 5 is on the way. To help build up that excitement that the DHL delivery man's coming, feel free to grab a drink and a snack and watch along this long video, or just put it on in the background for some background noise. I'm sure you'll get a lot of useful information from this video. I will put chapter marks at the bottom in case you'd like to skip along to the part you're interested in, and I hope this video will be a great resource for anybody setting up their Retroid Pocket 5 for the first time, who wants to make sure that their games are running well. I will also be posting a setup video soon, showing you how to set up the Retroid Pocket 5 in the way that I have, and I hope that my channel can be a very useful resource for anybody with a Retroid Pocket 5. Thank you once again for everyone who watched the video so far. I really appreciate every single one of you, and I hope you enjoyed this binge-worthy session. Hello everyone and welcome to my new channel. Usually on YouTube you see me traveling every city in Korea, but on this channel I'm going to be reviewing the Retroid Pocket 5. And good news! It just arrived from China. So let's open this package from DHL and have a look at the new Retroid Pocket 5 together. So let's get into the package. Inside we have a very nondescript cardboard box that only says made in China on it. So let's further get inside. This is the box that we come to expect from Retroid these days. Always oh, there goes the box. Very nice, very minimalist white design. And it has some lovely little design inlays in there. Some lovely little pictures. Then we open this. Oh, it's a very nice open, almost like a little, it's actually magnetic. There's actually a little magnetic seal there, like a jewelry box. Lovely. So let's open it up. Inside. Let's take out the console. Hopefully it's all in good shape. This is an early unit. The units are not shipping for 2 weeks yet, so we are lucky enough to have an early unit here, and oh, already it feels lovely in the hands. It looks beautiful. No film on it, no film to peel off, which is interesting. But I want to say, guys, right away, this feels beautiful. It feels oh, hello. It feels absolutely lovely. Okay, let's see what else we have in the box. Let's set that aside for now. So we have the manual, which is in English. Good for me. It's a very simple manual. It just says some system specifications and what each button is. Very simplistic manual. Then we have a USB-C to A cable, no C to C included. And then we also have, and that's about it for the product. So again, we can close it with that magnetic seal. Lovely. So that's a good way to store the product. So let's get to the actual console itself. It looks absolutely lovely. I'm actually speechless. I had the Retroid Pocket 2 a few years back and it was nowhere near the fit and finish of this. This is very premium. Even down to the vents in the back just look so well designed. The textures of the contours on the back are really nice and grippy. This is lovely. So for a size comparison, let's compare this with my original Nintendo Switch. Oh, I'll try not to get my face in all of the screens. So here is my Switch, and here is the Retroid Pocket. You can see it, you know, the Switch dwarfs it. It fits very comfortably in there. I'll try and line that up for you. You can see it's quite a bit smaller than the Switch when it comes to depth. They're quite similar, actually. So if we compare a Joy-Con to the back of the 5, definitely more ergonomics there along the bottom, because one of my gripes with the Joy-Cons is they're so uncomfortable. I know a lot of you watching this probably have the Retroid Pocket 4 Pro. It's very popular. I personally didn't buy it because of this, because I really don't like consoles that are just flat. And I feel like if I bought that, I would have to get the grips as well. And I want an all-in-one device that doesn't need grips. Not that it's a big deal. Anyway, this is feeling lovely, guys. I will say right away, it's not as comfortable as I was hoping it would be. It's not as comfortable as the Steam Deck, which, let me show you that now. For another size comparison, obviously this is going to absolutely dwarf this, but here is the Steam Deck, and that size difference is actually quite funny. So of course, these are not comparable. The Steam Deck is much more expensive, much bigger, but the ergonomics of the Steam Deck are incredible. Those big grips that extend from the top to the bottom are really comfortable. On the Switch, you have a little bump just where the bumper is here, and then it's flat. And the Retroid Pocket 5 seems to be somewhere in the middle, where you have the bump for the bumper and trigger at the top, and then you have this little ergonomic bump at the bottom, but then the middle is still flat. So it's almost like a camel. You've almost got this kind of camel bump where it goes bump, and then here it feels very flat. On the camera, it looks quite curvaceous, but it feels quite flat in comparison to the Steam Deck, which I'm not sure if I'll be able to show you this because it's huge, but the Steam Deck is just curvy all the way. It's definitely more comfortable, but of course, you know, that's to be expected. It's way bigger. So to compare them all, we have the Steam Deck, we have the Switch, which fits on top of the Steam Deck like that, and then we have the Mini, which easily fits on top of the Switch. This thing is really tiny. If we were to compare it to the Steam Deck like this, you can see it's just minuscule. It's like it's baby. You can probably fit almost 2 of these here. So definitely this is a much smaller proposition. But now, finally, let's get the screen turned on and see what we're working with. And let's get this turned on and see how it looks. So let's turn it on. Retroid Pocket 5, there it is. I'm very excited to see the screen, the OLED panel. Welcome to Retroid Pocket 5. Let's get started. Okay, so we'll go next, next. Okay, so I'm going to get this all set up, and then I'll come back and show you when it's all put together. So we have the option here to pre-install apps like Citra and Dolphin. So I'm going to select all of them, and we'll see which ones are the best. Okay, the device is set up. I can already see that the screen is beautiful. It installed all of these emulators. It only took about 1 minute to set up. So I'm going to dive deeply into all of these in a follow-up video that I will post later today. So please let me know what you'd like to see. One comment I did get that someone would like to see is how clicky-clacky are the buttons, because apparently the Retroid Mini had some issues with very loud buttons. So let's listen to the buttons. Definitely louder and clackier than a Switch. Let's compare it to a Steam Deck now. I'd say they're a bit quieter than a Steam Deck. If I can try and compare them all together. Yeah, I'd put it in the middle between a Steam Deck and a Switch. The Switch being the quietest, the Steam Deck being the clackiest, and then the Retroid definitely being louder than I would like. They are a little bit clacky, but I don't think there'll be too much of a problem. So I'm now going to set up all the emulators on this. Please let me know what you'd like to see, what games you'd like to see, and if you'd like to see me do any other tests on this, as I will be releasing another video later today. So please subscribe if you'd like to see that, hit the like button, and I'll see you again very soon. Thank you for watching. Welcome back. We're now going to check out a few games on the Retroid Pocket 5. I've purposely not cleaned it yet just to show how the fingerprints are holding up, because I saw a lot of people worried, especially with the black model, about how much it will show smudges and fingerprints. So you can see on the screen there's quite a few fingerprints there. On the actual shell itself, I'm not seeing too much, honestly. It is an all glass front, so that was making some people quite worried. but honestly, it's rejecting the fingerprints quite well. I'm not sure if I'll be able to show this on the camera, but you can actually see some fingerprints on the screen moving over to the shell, and they don't show up very well. It's doing pretty well. So now I'm going to clean it, and let's get some games up and running. Okay, after having played with this for a few hours now, I can say that these face buttons are a little bit loud. The other buttons are fine. The face buttons are a little bit loud. I wouldn't say they're too loud, but if you're in a really quiet situation, it might be a little bit annoying. I actually want to use this on the airplane when I fly soon, and I am a little bit worried if it's quiet, it might annoy people. But I'm sure the volume of the plane would drown that out. I got a comment on my previous video asking me how YouTube is on this device, and it's an Android device, so obviously you can just run Chrome and it runs very well. But I would like to say this screen is incredible. I can compare it to my iPhone screen. This is the iPhone 13 Pro Max, and this is a great screen on the iPhone, but this OLED just blows it away. If you compare the two videos here, the difference in color is insane. This is with the brightness set to 100% on both, and you can see in comparison, the iPhone looks washed out. But the real magic of this screen is when you look at it off axis. If I just change the axis of my phone, on the camera it looks pretty good, but to my eye, it gets very dark when you change the axis. It gets very dark and discolored like most screens do, whereas the Retroid Pocket 5 really retains its color and richness at any angle. It is absolutely incredible. When you see this in person, it is beautiful. This is a normal screen that will become dark and colorless at different angles. It doesn't even look like a screen. It looks like you've got this printed on a piece of paper. It almost defies what you would expect. It's really incredible. I really cannot say enough about how good this screen is. And I think for people who are saying about the Retroid Pocket 4 and the Retroid Pocket 5, I think the screen alone makes it a very worthy upgrade. I wouldn't necessarily go and buy it if I had a Retroid Pocket 4 Pro, but I think if you're on the fence between the two, the screen is a huge difference. One thing I want to talk about before we get into the game is how snappy this is. If you just flick between screens, and especially with the bumper buttons, it's so snappy. It's really impressive. It also came with quite a few little games. It came with Shattered Pixel Dungeon, which seems to be a free game. It came with the Pokemon MMO, which I'm going to get into soon, and the Pojav launcher, which is a Minecraft launcher. I'm not quite sure how trustworthy it is to put my Microsoft details in there, but I did set it up with an account that I've had for a while. So we can get into Minecraft and just see how that runs. We're getting 300, 400 FPS. It's definitely running pretty well. Let's bring the sound back in. And this is a good chance to talk about those front-facing speakers. They're not perfectly clear, but they're definitely loud enough. So if you see the frame counter at the top left up here, we are getting around 400 frames per second. Of course, we're on a tiny little island and not much is happening. So there's world type amplified, which says just for fun, requires beefy computer. Let's try that. Well, we're still at 500 frames per second for now. Let's go to 10 chunks. Now we're sitting at still 200 frames per second. So the Retroid Pocket 5 definitely seems to be a very nice Minecraft machine, because even with 10 chunks generating, we're still sitting at over 100 frames per second, and at most points, pretty much 200 frames per second, even when generating chunks way off into the distance. So in terms of Minecraft, it's a good Minecraft device. I got a comment asking me to check out higher-end Android gaming, including Genshin Impact. So I don't play Genshin Impact, but I just installed it to have a look, how it works, and using the built-in game bar management software, I was able to map the keys onto the screen. So now I can use the analog stick to move around, I can use buttons to jump and attack and sprint. I still need to use my finger to control the camera. I wasn't able to find a way to map that. So there might be some situations where you do still have to touch the screen, but for the most part, I can run around, attack, jump, sprint. But it seems to be working really well, and I'm sure the Pocket will handle this very well because it is an Android device after all. Jumping back into the Retroid launcher now, I've now populated it with some games. Let's go to PlayStation 2. And through here, we can look for some games, but it seems like it doesn't really want to launch them within the Retroid launcher. I'm having some problems. For example, here's Auto Modelista, and if you try to launch it, it usually just launches the emulation program. It doesn't actually launch the game, and it's happening with pretty much every game in the Retroid launcher. It doesn't seem to be working very well right now. So now that we're in the actual emulating software, let's launch Auto Modelista, and I can bring up a quick save that I made. And by the way, this is PlayStation 2, and I'm running this at 5 times the native resolution. So if we load in, this is running smooth 60 frames per second, 5 times native, which is really impressive. It looks absolutely incredible on this screen. And if I move the screen around, you'll see what I mean about the viewing angles are just incredible. It doesn't matter where you view it from, it just always looks vivid and incredible. It's just so good. I'm really gushing over this screen. I'll just crash this guy. Whoa, fail. Okay, let's look at something else. So that is PlayStation 2. Let's have a look at PlayStation 1. So this is Ready to Rumble Boxing. I loved this game when I was a kid. I don't remember how to play it whatsoever now, but we're going to try. I also realize now that all of these controller mappings are completely wrong. The A button seems to be X, triangle is over here somewhere. Everything's kind of turned around, so I'll fix that later. But for now, let's just jump into a game and see how it runs. I believe this is also running at 5 times native resolution, which shouldn't be a problem as it was fine for Auto Modelista. So let's go for, I remember I really like this guy, Raging Rivera. So I don't know any of the buttons, so I'm going to just smash all of them, like all good fighting gamers. Just smash them all and see what happens. Oh, uppercut, uppercut. Oh no, wahey, wahey. Ow. Oh no, he's gone into rumble mode. I don't know what it is, but I don't like it. Wow, this really brings me back to being a kid and having to look at the instruction manual to see the controls. Okay, I'm about to get knocked out. Okay, so let's move on to another game, because I'm Hot Wheels Turbo Racing. I used to really like this game because there were hidden cars scattered around the map, and if you drove kind of off of the track and through tunnels and over jumps, you were able to unlock secret cars, which were really fast or really cool. Yeah, this is running at about 15 to 38 FPS. So let's lower the scale from 5 times, maybe down to 3 times for this one and see how that goes. Yeah, it's now running at a solid 50 FPS. I think I downloaded this in the European version, so 50 is about the maximum we're going to get out of it. This is not meant to be a showcase of my skills today. These are all games I've not played in 25 years, so I just want to show you the performance to show that it's running really well. Let's have a look at PSP. So I've only loaded one game for now, which was my favorite PSP game. This was the Yu-Gi-Oh! GX Tag Force. I used to play this all day long. You can see by default it has the overlays on the screen, but because we have the actual controller, we don't need them. We can swipe over, settings, controls, and then here on-screen touch controls. You'll see something like this in pretty much all of the emulators. You just turn it off. And now we are just using our actual controls on the device. So I'm going to spare you from watching the beginning of this game because it has an extremely, excruciatingly long tutorial that you cannot skip. Thank God for the speed boost button on the right trigger, because when you need to talk to somebody, you can just hold the right trigger and you just zip through the whole conversation in less than a second. Nice! The only problem is if you run around while holding it, you kind of teleport all over the game. So in case you don't know how to play Yu-Gi-Oh, it goes like this. Well, I'm definitely learning something. This is one of my favorite Yu-Gi-Oh games ever because it has a lot of animations when people summon certain monsters, and it just is really nicely displayed. You can see the card, you can see the word. It's not too old, but it's not too new like the modern Yu-Gi-Oh games where everyone just wins in one turn. You can see all of these animations, and you also get to tag team. You get to do 2 versus 2 matches where you can synergize with other people. So it's just a really fun and really cool game. It's much better than, I think it's much better than pretty much any other Yu-Gi-Oh game out there, to be honest. I'm really a fan of this era of Yu-Gi-Oh before it went absolutely mad with one-turn kills. Okay, so I'm going to play this for about 10 straight hours now, and then I'll be back soon. Here is a tip for when you're in the Retroid launcher, that when you're in it, you actually can't get out of it the way you would expect to on Android. So usually on Android, you swipe up and then you get out of your apps. It just constantly puts you back inside the launcher no matter what you do. You actually have to push this really small quit button at the bottom left. That's the only way to actually close the app. Next up is Geometry Wars. I remember playing this back on, I think, Xbox 360 years ago. I remember it had some really cool music. And I guess this is the Wii U version, so I guess I'm meant to be aiming like this. I'm not quite sure how to play it. I just want to show you the performance, and it's running at a very solid 60 frames per second. Obviously, this is an easier game to run, but this is a Wii title, and it's running very, very smoothly at 60 frames per second. Despite the fact that I can't really seem to control it. But just in terms of performance, running beautifully. Next, let's look at a game that will obviously run very well on this. It's an Android game, Balatro. But this is a really good use case, I think, for the Retroid Pocket 5, because this is a game that you can just sink hours into. And with this beautiful screen and nice ergonomic controls, I think this will be a fantastic Balatro machine. 2 weeks later, I have a 26-hour travel from Korea to Scotland, including a 10-hour layover, like 15 plus hours of flights. So I think this is where I'm going to sink a lot of my time into, Balatro. So this is my first time playing on Android, actually. I've been playing it on other devices. But yeah, this looks absolutely beautiful. It looks better than it does on my Steam Deck. So if we put together a cheeky little 2-pair, see what we score with that. Oh, this is way too slow. Let's go into the settings and let's put the speed on 4 times. So there's no actual control options to change the mapping of the buttons. So what we are able to do is change the controller style from retro, as I had it set, to Xbox, which will change the mapping of the controls, but not in the way that I want. I think that actually seems to suit the PlayStation mode better, so I could use that for some of the PlayStation games. But in terms of this game, I prefer the retro style, and I think I just have to get used to a couple of the buttons being switched around. So Balatro runs beautifully on this. Definitely this is a killer Balatro device, if that's what you're into. And one thing you might notice here is the screen rotates when you flip the device, even if in the top menu, auto rotate is disabled. So that's something that I would like to find out if I can disable that, because it's quite annoying. And for the final test in this video, let's take a look at my favorite game, Slay the Spire. I have sunk thousands of hours into this game. On this console right now, it is being emulated on a system that I cannot tell you the name of. Let's just say there is a magical, mythical gaming system out there that you can emulate some games on with the Retroid Pocket 5, but he shall not be named. It's a pretty easy game to run. It's just a card game, basically. So you'll see the FPS at the top is pretty much locked at 60. I wouldn't expect to have any issues with this. But the screen is just wonderful. The ergonomics, the buttons, it is beautiful. And this is a very good opportunity for me to compare with my Switch and my Steam Deck, because I have this game on all of them. And I even have this game on my phone as well, so we could throw that in for fun too. So let's get Slay the Spire on 4 devices. So here, of course, is the Mini. I'm going to put this away and show this at the end, because I think the screen is really impressive. So first of all, let's start with the Switch. I really don't like how muted the colors are on the Switch. It honestly just looks bad. If we put the brightness up to 100%, you'll see that's how bright it is. Then if I compare that to my phone, the same game, you'll see, again, obviously the phone version is a little bit different, but here is a comparison. Then if we compare the Switch to the Steam Deck version looks wonderful. This is not the OLED Steam Deck. These are both not OLED versions. On the camera, it might be hard to tell, but in person, the Steam Deck version is so deep. The colors are so deep compared to this. But then once you put in the Retroid Pocket 5, this just puts them to shame. Let's put all the devices to 100% brightness. So these are both 100% brightness. I think the Pocket's on about half. So if we put that up to 100%, it's going to be much brighter than the other two. And it might be hard to see on the camera, but in person, this just blows them away. If you have the OLED Switch or the OLED Steam Deck, they're probably quite similar. But if we look at the viewing angles again, when you get to quite deep viewing angles, things get quite dark and hard to see. I mean, the Switch is really hard to see when you get at a deep angle. Steam Deck is not bad. It's much better than the Switch. I never felt the need to upgrade to the OLED Steam Deck because I feel like the screen's already pretty nice. But then this is just incredible. This is just, I said it in my previous video, but this just looks like it's on a piece of paper. It doesn't look like an actual LCD screen like we're usually accustomed to. It's incredible. One last thing we can do is we could compare the volume of all of them. So let's start with the Switch and turn it up to 100%. Steam Deck, so much more full, so much richer. Obviously much bigger speakers, much bigger device, but incomparable. Retroid Pocket 5. Very loud. Quite hollow sounding. The sound quality is really not very impressive from this. It doesn't sound very good at all. Quite muffled, quite hollow, but it's loud. It's got the volume. The combination of the loudspeakers and the incredible screen and the ergonomics, this is really, really, really a good device. I'm thoroughly impressed with this, especially with the ergonomics. I think if any of you watching this were struggling with the ergonomics of your Pocket 4 Pro, it's not going to be a problem with this. This fits in the hands lovely. It's such a stark contrast to a flat device like the Switch or the Pocket 4, or I had the Pocket 2 and that was really flat and uncomfortable. This is comfy. I've been using it for a few hours now. I've not had any fatigue, any cramp. It's been lovely. I'm really, really looking forward to making more videos about this. So please hit the subscribe button, follow along, and I'll make more content over this coming weekend. Again, let me know what you'd like to see, and I'm possibly going to do some live streams trying out your suggestions as well. So I will see you next time. Thanks for watching. Hello everyone, I've had a few requests to show Winlator on the RP5. So Winlator is something that lets you emulate Windows and Windows games. So if we run the Winlator environment, so far it's not working very well. I need to do some more testing and configuring of the software, but for now I'll show you what I have. I'm running at 1080p, so the icons are absolutely tiny, but along the top we have Skyrim, Far Cry 2, Lego The Lord of the Rings, Neverwinter Nights, Stardew Valley, and Sid Meier's Pirates. So these are the games that I'm trying to get running first of all. These are some games that I have. So let's start with Skyrim. Skyrim is a very black game, so you're going to see how reflective the screen is. It's actually quite hard to show it on the camera because it's so shiny and glossy. With Skyrim, I actually wasn't able to get into the game. I was able to launch into the intro, but then it always freezes, and it seems like it's actually frozen already this time. It freezes usually during the cart ride to the intro. So I'm going to see if I can get a mod to skip straight to the character creation part of the game. But for now, Skyrim is not working. Next up we have Far Cry 2. Now this one I set up last night and it was actually working really well. But now today, for some reason, the controller has stopped working. So I'm forced to use the touchscreen. But it does work pretty well. It's running around 40 frames per second. And it seems to be running pretty well. So Far Cry 2, if I can get the controller working again like it was yesterday, Far Cry 2 is working pretty well. It definitely seems playable on Winlator on the RP5. So if you want to play some Far Cry 2 on Windows, you can do that on the RP5. And that's honestly mind-blowing to me that we can be emulating Windows like this. So let's get out of this and play another game that hopefully is going to be completely working, including the controller. So this is Lego Lord of the Rings, and I found that if I touch anything while it's loading, it freezes and breaks. But if I just leave it alone and let it do its thing, once it's loaded up, it seems to be working. I haven't launched the game yet, but all the menus seem to be working really well. We just need to let this intro play out, because the last time I tried to skip it, it just froze the whole thing. Okay, now we're in the menu. What we can do is, the controller works very well. We can go through and set this to full screen. So if we go to video settings, and change this to 1080p, except we've now got full screen Lord of the Rings Lego on the RP5 in Windows. So let's start a new game and see how well it runs.
9 rings were gifted to the race of men, who above all else desire power.
Okay, I'm in the game. Seems to control well. I was getting 40 frames per second and it's now frozen. You can see the issue I'm having with Winlator. Most of the games I'm playing just freeze after a while, so I think I need to play with some of the settings and get it up and running a little bit better. But you can see the potential. Here. We're running Windows, we're getting around 40 frames per second in most of the games. We just need to fix the hang-ups, the stuttering, and the freezes. Neverwinter Nights is a game that I saw my friend play when I was a kid. I went to his home and he showed me the game, but then wouldn't let me play it. So all of my life, pretty much, I've been wanting to play this game. This is a game that's, I think, very much a mouse and keyboard game. I don't think it's going to work very well with the touch controls. So we can create a new game here. We'll just use one of the pre-made characters. And you can hear this one's not running particularly well, 24 frames per second. It might be a little bit too taxing for the Pocket, but you can definitely get into the game, run around, only around 15 frames per second. So if we can increase the performance mode to high performance, you'll then hear the fan come on, and the fan is actually obnoxiously high-pitched. But that might give us another few frames. It seems like it's not really making much of a difference. We're running at around 16 frames per second. Now let's try and connect maybe a keyboard and mouse to this. It might make a nicer experience. So now I'm controlling with a mouse. We can also add a keyboard. I'm not sure what function the keyboard really has in this game, but you'll see the keyboard is working. And then if we want to really make this like a computer, we can also add a much bigger screen. This is a portable monitor. I'll add this USB-C cable for charging. And then if I want to connect the Pocket to the screen, I can just use a USB-C to C cable. So here is one side USB-C and the other side USB-C goes into my portable monitor. And then you should see we now have the game running on a big screen. The screen of the Pocket turns off, and now we have it running on here. And it still supports touch control, this particular screen that I have. And now we can run all of our games on this big screen. You'll notice the particular screen I have is very washed out, and it's not usually. There's something going on here. But if I now use my mouse as well, and I can now play on this big screen. So this is something that I will test a lot more. I'll try and find more PC games that work well on this screen. Maybe something like Civilization or some other kind of PC games. I'd love to try a MOBA on this. But for now, let's get back to just the Pocket itself and try out a couple more games. If I put this up to my microphone, you can really hear this. Pretty loud. I would be uncomfortable using this in a public place. At least a quiet public place. So I'm going to set this back to regular performance mode. We then get access to the quiet fan mode, and that's pretty much silent. Next up is Sid Meier's Pirates. This is a game that I've never actually played, but I've heard a lot of people say it's just fantastic. And I do like pirates. It seems like another game that we're not really going to be able to use the controls for. It seems very much a mouse and keyboard game. So this is interesting. When I use the on-screen control, you can see there's a little sword, which is my cursor, and I cannot click anything. I thought it was broken. But if I use a real mouse, and I actually don't move the cursor over the item itself, but kind of to the side, you can see these lighting up. So it seems like there's a bit of an error with the location of the cursor. It might be to do with the resolution or something else. So if I click to the side of it, I actually can get it running, but it doesn't seem to be running very well with the device itself. Okay, name incognito. Sure, it seems like this is going to pretty much require a mouse and keyboard. I think what we can do in Winlator is actually bring up a keyboard like this. It tells us we need to press enter. So if I can bring up a keyboard, although it doesn't seem to be working. Maybe because I've got a physical one attached. Let's use my actual keyboard for now. Push enter. So my keyboard is not working with this. I'm pushing enter and nothing's happening. So this game is one that seems like it's just not really a good fit for the Pocket. The fact that you need a keyboard and mouse and it's not really working well. I don't think this game's particularly a good fit for the Pocket, at least not right now. So this is another one I'm going to have to take a look at. You can see kind of the theme of the video at the moment is most of these games are not really working well, but there's a lot of potential here. There's a lot of games that will load up and run at around 40 frames per second, but then they get into issues. So I think if we can keep working on it and persevering through the issues, there's a lot of potential with Windows emulation on the Retroid Pocket 5. Stardew Valley is quite weird. You can see the little cursor here showing where my button is, what button I've selected, but it kind of jumps and skips around. So as I go left or right, it sometimes jumps and jumps back. It sometimes jumps across 2 items and back. It's quite strange. It is technically working, but it's jumping around. So as I move around here, it's kind of jumping back and forth everywhere. If I just go down, you'll see sometimes it jumps up And if I just go up, sometimes it jumps down. So it's really difficult to control. I need to set this up, but I think Stardew Valley will run well. But you're getting the theme of this video is that at this point, I've spent hours on this. I have no experience working with Winlator in particular before, and I've spent many hours on this. And I'm at the stage where a lot of the games are almost working, but there are just different bugs in all of them, whether it's graphical bugs, freezing, controller issues. There's a lot of things to work out with Winlator, but definitely a lot of potential. So for the last one, I want to show you something that runs very well and is a game I loved in my childhood. This is the Yu-Gi-Oh! Power of Chaos trilogy, and they're now all free to download because they're abandonware. So you can just freely download this. We can pick from Kaiba, Joey, Yugi, or the trainer. So let's start with Yugi. You do need to run it in a square resolution, and you do need to also use the mouse input. There's no keyboard and mouse support. So you'll see it's small right now, but I'll make it bigger once it loads up fully. This runs really well. The voice acting in this game is fantastic. Everything about this game is great, and it's perfect for this device as long as you're okay with using the touch control. So there's no way of stretching that to fill the screen. So what we have to do is actually change the screen size itself. So this is the Winlator settings, and if you go to your container settings by choosing these 3 dots here, and then edit, you can change the screen size. So right now it's at 1080p. If we change that all the way down to 640 by 480 to match the game and click the check mark, now when we launch Winlator, it's going to be much easier to see everything, and the game will scale properly because it's now the correct screen size for the game. I made a mistake. I said 640 by 400 and that resulted in just a black screen. So I've now went back into the settings and changed it to, I think 800 by 600, and now it's running perfectly. So now this is the game I remember from my childhood that I sunk so many hours into, running flawlessly. We don't really have controller support, but then again, this isn't really a controller game. We have to use the touch screen by moving it like this, and then tapping to click, but honestly it's not too bad, and it's running really flawlessly. This is probably the computer game I sunk the most time into, the trio of these Yu-Gi-Oh! Trio of games, so having this on something so small is incredible for me. If you like Yu-Gi-Oh! And you've not tried this trilogy, I highly recommend trying it, because the voice acting and the animations are fantastic, and it is now legitimately free because it's abandonware. So I can play Change of Heart, and steal his monster, and you'll see the anime style animations whenever I do pretty much anything. I'll turn up the sound and let you listen to it.
That was a good attack.
And also you can hear from the music, there's no stopping or cutting or stuttering, it's very smooth. So as you can see, Windows emulation is really hit or miss at the moment. Mostly miss, to be honest. But there's a lot of games that are very close to working. I just need to get through some stutters or freezes. I'm honestly very impressed with Windows emulation on this device. I didn't expect to be emulating Windows games this easily. So if we can get through those stutters and pauses, we're looking at a really nice little Windows emulation device here. So thank you for watching this video. If you have any tips about fixing the freezes, please let me know. And again, if there's anything you'd like to see, please let me know in the comments down there. Please subscribe, and I'll see you again very shortly with more Retroid Pocket 5 content. Thank you for watching. Hello everyone, and welcome back. Today I'm going to be showing you a mythical console, one that shall not be named. I cannot even give hints about what you're about to see today, but let's just turn on the joystick lights. Okay, that seems about right. So now we'll get into the games, and today I'll give you some tips about how to get them running nicely. The first game today is Dave the Diver. It's running at a completely solid 30 frames per second. No drops, no hiccups, it's working very, very well. The next game is Littlewood, a very easy game to run, no issues here. Very, very cute little game, runs absolutely perfectly at 60 frames per second locked. Very simple, runs perfectly, perfect for this device. Next up we have my favorite game, Slay the Spire. This is a game that once again won't tax this system whatsoever, running at a very solid, consistent 60 frames per second, and you won't have any worries playing this game at all for as long as you want. Moving on, we have Stardew Valley. If you saw my previous video emulating games on Windows on the Retroid Pocket 5, you will have seen that I had some issues with the control mapping. That is no problem whatsoever on this mystical device. It's running absolutely flawlessly. All the controls are automatically registered, no problem whatsoever, and it's running again at a flawless 60 frames per second. So another great choice for the Retroid Pocket 5 here. And especially on this screen, it looks incredible. It's so bright and vivid. It's really something you have to see in person to truly appreciate how great this is. I've muted the audio for all of these games for obvious copyright reasons, and also because there's a little bit of audio stuttering happening in a lot of the games. It's something I need to work on, but visually the games are running absolutely beautifully. So I'll continue working on the audio issues and I'll get back to you in a future video with an update on that. So subscribe to see more updates in the future. Next up on the list of easy to run titles, we have Untitled Goose Game. Again, no surprises, solid 60 frames per second. If you want to play these easy to run games on the mythical device, you're definitely going to have no problem running them on the RP5, especially when you get the drivers set up, which is something I will talk about soon as we move on to the more difficult to emulate games. Next up is a game that I cannot tell you the name of. Let's just call him Mr. Frog. So in this Mr. Frog game, you'll see that it's running flawlessly. Again, around 60 frames per second, sometimes dropping to around 56, but not in any way that's noticeable. If I didn't have the FPS counter on the screen, I would have no idea it's dropping below 60. It's a completely smooth experience. It runs beautifully. And yesterday I let my girlfriend try this for a little while, and it was hard to get the device back from her. She was using this for a long time. I can tell she really enjoyed it. This is a device that many people are going to love. I think it's going to be a great gift for anyone if you're looking to get them a gaming gift. It's just, once you get it set up running nicely, it's just an absolutely incredible device. I cannot recommend it highly enough. So this is Mr. Frog. But to be safe, I shouldn't spend much time in this game, so let's move on. Next up is an easy to run game, but one that will really show off the beauty of the screen. It looks phenomenal. This is the game Grease, or Grizz. It's available for many systems, including Android, so the Android port might be a good option for this, being that it's an Android device, but I'm running it on the Mythical console, so let's see how it runs once we get past the intro and into the main game. This game looks absolutely incredible on this screen. It's really doing it a lot of justice. Grease is a game that I've played quite a little bit of, but I still don't really get the point of it. I think it's not really a game for me. I love cozy games, but this one's just a little bit too much of nothing happening. So let's move on to the next game. But if you do like this game, definitely you're going to have a great experience on the RP5. It looks majestic. This next game is one that looks absolutely adorable. I haven't actually played it yet. I actually bought this game a while ago and never opened it once, so I'm really excited to play it now for the first time because it looks so cute. I've just opened it for the first time and immediately we're getting a solid 60 frames per second, and judging by the side-scrolling nature and the quite cute cartoony art style, I'm not anticipating any problems running this game. It feels incredibly smooth and solid, straight out of the box. You can see it's quite difficult to film black content on this device because the screen is very reflective, and also black is true black because it's OLED. So you can always see my camera, but I want you to know that when you're using the device, the reflections are not a problem. Even when I used it outside at a football game, there was no issue with the screen at all. It's only on the camera that it's a little bit complicated to show. So now as we get into a more complicated game to run, Skyrim, you're going to see some issues, and I'm going to run you through the issues that I had and how I fixed all of those issues in one easy way. Oh, it sounds like a teleshopping commercial, doesn't it? But stick with me because I know it sounds like clickbait, but I am going to show you one simple method to get all of the good games working easily. Skyrim is flickering black as I look around. This cute game where you live on an island with animals is just blue. Dragon Quest is just gold. My Time at Portia looks pretty good until you realize all of the ground is blue. And this game about catching little monsters in magical balls is doing whatever this is. I'm not sure what it is, but it doesn't look right. So how can we fix all of these problems? There's one simple, easy way to fix all the problems, and it's this. Turnips. What you need to do is, after you hit the subscribe button, go to the link down in the description and find this link to the turnip drivers. You need to install the turnip driver. It only takes a few seconds, and then all of the problems will be fixed. So what you do is you go into the software, and under GPU Driver Manager, you can choose which driver to use. By default, it's using the Qualcomm driver, but you need to change it to a Mesa turnip driver. I downloaded 3 different kinds just to try them out, but as far as my tests go, I'm not noticing any difference. So you might as well just go with the latest version. But any of these will be fine as long as you pick one of the turnip drivers. I did notice in some games it introduces new audio stutters, but I would take that any day of the week over the whole game just being a solid color. So now when we choose the turnip driver, which you are going to need to do for each game individually, or just change the default driver in the software to the turnip driver, you're then going to get far more accurate performance out of a lot of games, especially the more demanding ones. So now, as you can see at the top left, we're running the turnip driver, and as we get into the games, you're going to notice that they're now all functioning correctly. Oh, that's not right. So you may have just noticed there were some really weird glitches happening with version 12 of the turnip driver. So I've now changed back to version 9, and as you can see, everything is running perfectly. So you might need to mix and match and play around with the turnip driver, but once you get one that's working well, then that will fix all of those issues that you may have been having before. So I think for now, for the rest of this video, I'm going to stick with version 9 as it seems to be working well for me. As you can see, Dragon Quest is now working perfectly at around 22 to 28 frames per second. We could of course put the resolution down if it's struggling to run, but it is now perfectly viewable rather than just being gold. Again, when I just tried to run this with version 12, it crashed. So I would recommend version 9 for now. And if you look down in the description, I will put down the specific version of turnip driver that I recommend, the one that I'm using now. So as we look through the games again, Skyrim is now not glitching anymore, Dragon Quest is now no longer gold, the game about catching little animals in balls is now working flawlessly, and My Time at Portia just doesn't work. This game is notoriously difficult to emulate, so it might be something we have to look at another time. I do have one more tip to share with you before the end. This is a game about a little prince. Again, I can't tell you the name of it, but there is a real common problem with this game, which is that it just flashes and flickers black constantly. So if you are quite sensitive to flickering lights, please do not look at the screen for the next 10 or so seconds. But as I open the game, you're going to see this absolute mess. So as we walk around, the frame rate is actually a solid 60 and it runs beautifully except for this flickering, and the turnip drivers will not do anything to solve this. So what we need to do here is actually apply a different fix. So I've exited the game now, so if you were looking away, you can now look again. We need to go into the debugging settings, and down here where it says CPU backend, we need to change it from native code execution NCE to dynamic slow. And it says slow because this is going to drastically slow the game down from the 60 frames per second down to probably less than 30. So in order to counteract that and get a solid 30, we're going to have to bump the resolution down as well. So I've gone into the graphics settings and I've put the resolution down to 75%. That is going to allow us to get a few more frames per second as we run this slow dynamic mode. It's not ideal, but it's definitely better than the constant flickering. So let's jump back into the game now and compare how it looks. Now back in the game, you can see that the flashing is gone, but there is a blur that covers the whole screen. So we are going to need to download and install a blur mod fix. And we also are only getting around 16 frames per second. So we are unfortunately going to have to bump that resolution back down even further to 50%. So I'm going to apply those fixes and then I'll be back in a second. I've now set the resolution to 50%. I've installed a no blur mod, so the blur is all gone. And we're now averaging between 30 and 60 frames per second, averaging kind of around 45 to 50. It's playing pretty smoothly, it's looking pretty good, although a little bit blocky around the edges, but it's running pretty well. And if you wanted to play this game on the RP5, you definitely can. And just before I wrap up this video, I did get a comment on one of my previous videos asking to check out Football Manager, and I'm happy to report that it is working perfectly. The only issue I can currently see is that sometimes both teams are wearing all black when they're meant to be wearing colors. It doesn't happen every game, but it does happen sometimes. But outside of that, it is working absolutely flawlessly with no modifications needed. So if you do want to play Football Manager on the go on a small little device like this, you can do it. So if you're watching this and you'd like to see me try out any games or hacks or mods or anything that you would like to see, please let me know. I will be keeping the content coming every single day, so please make sure you subscribe and leave me a comment. What would you like to see? It's great to talk to you guys, and I'll see you again next time tomorrow. Bye for now. Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be testing the Retroid Pocket 5 with some external monitors. We will be testing it with a portable touchscreen monitor, a traditional computer monitor, and a large living room TV. So let's see how the device works through various screens. Hello. First up, we have this portable monitor. Let's connect the power by USB-C, and then we also need one more USB-C cable to connect the Retroid Pocket to the monitor. I'm using this USB 3 cable, the one that I use to transfer files from my SSD. So let's put this into the monitor and into the Retroid Pocket 5. And when we turn it on, it should connect seamlessly to the monitor. And there it is. So as you can see, it's now connected. It's now working perfectly with touch input. Everything's as it should be. Going into the settings of the monitor, you can see that we're running at 2560 by 1440p at 60 Hertz. Interestingly, I just pulled the power cable out of the screen and it crashed the Pocket. It's now dead. I'm gonna have to restart it. So disconnecting a screen, it says DP disconnected, could crash the Retroid Pocket 5. So that's something to take note of. And if we launch into a game, we can control the game with the on-screen controls. We can also still keep using the controls of the Retroid Pocket itself as well. But I'm curious to see if we can connect an external controller. So let's try that now. So going into settings and then connected devices, pair new device. I'm then going to hold down the pairing button on the Xbox controller. So this would be the same with whatever controller you're using. We should be able to find it on this list. And here it is, Xbox wireless controller. So tap that and it should pair successfully, and we should be able to use this in our games. So let's get back into our previous game and try that out. Okay, we're back into the game, and again we can use the on-screen touch controls. We can use the controls on the device itself. But now we want to get this controller working. So right away, it's not working because we haven't set it up yet. So what we're going to do is, first of all, turn off these touchscreen controls. We don't need to see them anymore. So if we swipe in from the left, hit overlay options, and here where it says toggle controls, we're going to say toggle all to toggle all of the buttons off, and then push OK. Now we don't have the overlay anymore, and we're going to set up our external Bluetooth controller. So if we once again swipe from the left, go to controls, and then player 1. I'm going to set this up as a player 2 controller because I still want to retain my controls with the original device. So I'm going to go to player 2, and I'm going to say connected, controller type, Pro controller, and then auto mapper controller, and we can pick what controller do you want to automatically map. And of course this time we're going to be using the Xbox Wireless Controller 1. If for some reason you hadn't already auto mapped the Retroid Pocket, here you could choose the Retroid Pocket and it will set all of those buttons up for you. But I've already done that as controller number 1, so now for controller number 2, I am going to choose the Xbox Wireless Controller. And now we'll test it out, but as you can see, it has automatically mapped all of the buttons for us. Now as we get into the game, you'll notice it's not working because this is a single player game. So of course it's mapped controller number 1 to control myself, and controller number 2 is not doing anything right now. So in order to get this controller working, we're going to have to set it up as controller number 1. So if we go into the control settings, player 1, we're then going to say Auto Mapper Controller, Xbox Wireless Controller. Now back into the game, you can see the Xbox controller is working perfectly, and we can now use the Xbox controller to play our games. The only downside with this is if we want to then stop using the Xbox controller and go back to once again using the Retroid Pocket, we're going to have to go back into those settings, back to controls, player 1, Auto Mapper Controller, and this time choose the Retroid Pocket Controller 0. There may be a way that we don't have to do this that can register 2 controllers at once, but as of now, I don't know how to do that. So if anybody knows a way to do that, please let me know in the comments. But for now, it's not too long of a process. We just have to choose Auto Mapper Controller and pick which one we want to use, and then it will switch back to using that controller. It only takes a few seconds, and now we're once again controlling the game the way that we want. So after getting our controllers set up, let's now move on to a bigger screen. Next up, we have a 27-inch Dell monitor. This one has a built-in USB hub, so I'm also going to check if I can connect devices to the USB and if they will register on the Pocket 5. So for this one, we only need to connect this one USB-C type cable. So here we're running the game, and let's see if it will work when we plug in the USB-C. So let's plug it in and let's see what happens on the screen. As you can see, the game came up on the screen. It looks like it's working well, but it's going to be a little bit difficult for me to reach over and control the game. So I'm once again going to connect my Xbox controller so I can stand back and let you see how it runs. And interestingly, we now have an extra option, which is my keyboard. In this monitor, in the USB hub, I have the USB dongle for my keyboard connected, and it's recognizing that keyboard here. This is the keyboard, this Christmas-themed beauty that I absolutely love. I usually display it behind me. So if we turn on the wireless mode, maybe we can get the keyboard working. So I chose the keyboard option, but unfortunately, it's not working. This wasn't actually something I intended to test in this video. The option just came up, so I thought it'd be fun to give it a go. But let's get back to the real video topic. So I've once again chosen the Xbox controller as my desired controller. You can see that it runs absolutely fine, with the device connected by one USB-C cable to the monitor, and everything is working flawlessly. And I have to say, it looks really nice on the screen as well. It's a really, really nice viewing experience. And now, just to test the USB hub functionality of the monitor, here is a USB-C cable that I'll use to plug in an SSD, and we'll see if it shows up on the device itself. So unfortunately, the SSD does not show on the device. Maybe other USB devices will work, but this SSD is not working. One thing to note is that while there is no charging icon at the top of the screen, when we bring down the menu, it does say charging this device via USB, which I hope means the Retroid Pocket 5. It's something I'll have to test a little bit more later, which I'll do in future upcoming battery test videos. But for now, this is running pretty well, and it does look very good on the nice big display. But we can go bigger! So next, we're going to move on to a 55-inch living room TV and see how that looks. So let's go there now. My TV area is quite small, so please bear with me for this section of the video. There's my view out over Seoul. As we connect the Retroid Pocket 5 to this big TV now, you'll see again it's working fine. It says that it connected in 4K once again. This cable that I'm using unfortunately only handles 4K 30p. It doesn't handle 60p, which is a shame, as I'd like to try that out soon. But as the RP5 is designed to be a 1080p console, we probably don't want to push it too far anyway. Once again, I'm using the Xbox controller to control this, and it's working very, very well. It looks lovely. We have that locked 30 frames per second in this game. It's never once dipping below 30, and it seems to be running very smoothly. One thing I am noticing is that this controller seems to have a little bit of input latency, which is a comment I got asked so many times about the Retroid Pocket 5, and one I will be addressing in an upcoming video today. So please look out for that. I hope this video was helpful, showing that yes, you can connect the Retroid Pocket 5 to various screens of all different sizes, and it works very well. So if you enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing, and I'll see you again next time with a lot more Retroid Pocket 5 content. Thank you very much. Hello everyone! In this video we're going to be testing the input latency of the Retroid Pocket 5. This has been by far the most requested feature that I've had on any video so far. So in order to test this, I have a few methods. I'm going to use the Android gamepad tester, and I'll measure the difference in time between when I push a button and when it registers on the screen. I'll do this for every button 4 times, and I'll give you the average measurement in milliseconds. I'll then also try a couple of games where input latency is important, and I'll report back to you how it feels. That way you get both sides of the coin. The actual raw data in milliseconds, and also my personal opinion of how it feels to play in the hands. So, without any further ado, let's get into it. I filmed myself pushing each button at 240 frames per second. I then counted how many frames there were between pushing the button and it registering on the screen. From my calculation, there was an average of around 7 frames between pushing the button and it registering on the screen. If my calculations are correct, this would mean there is an input latency of around 29 milliseconds, which, when looking back on an old Taki Udon video from a few years ago, is much better than the old Retroid Pocket 2, which had around 66 milliseconds of latency. Now, I am definitely not an expert in this area. This is something that I'm usually not too concerned with, but at least for me, it seems quite acceptable. And now we're going to see it in action in games, and I'll tell you how it really feels in the hands, which for me personally is far more important than the statistics. Our first game is Rhythm Heaven Fever. This game actually comes with a built-in input tester. When you start the game, it actually makes you test how well you can keep in time with the music. If there's a problem with the input latency on this device, I'm surely going to fail, or I'll at least feel that something is a bit off. So we're going to run through the test together and see how well I can do. This game, by the way, if you're curious, runs at a very smooth 60 frames per second. So here we have the rhythm test. It will show whether I'm early, late, or on time. This should theoretically be a good way to test the input latency. I majored in music at university, so my musical timing should be pretty decent. I'm not the best timekeeper in the world, but I should be at least close to accurate if the device can hold up. So this should be a good first test of the input latency. So are you ready to start the rhythm test? Yes. So I'm going to press A in time with the signal. Dun, 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 dun. So if I press in time when I hear it, it's actually a little bit early. So by being early, that tells me there's definitely not any kind of lag happening. I'm probably just pushing the button a little bit too early. If there was a lot of latency, we should expect me to push the button when I hear the sound and for it to come down late. So as the game says, if you have a lot of marks above the center line, like all of mine are, it means you're pushing the button a bit early. So that definitely means there's not any significant input latency here. Okay, so we're going to try this one more time, but this time it will be more difficult because they will stop playing the sound. I have to count the sound in my head and push the button. Okay, that one was perfect. Perfect again. Now we're not going to see until it's done. So let's see the result of my test. And oh, I am all over the place. So my timing is not good, but there is no clear trend of falling below the line that would indicate that there is some kind of latency going on here. There are as many above the line as below, so that just seems like a weakness on my own timekeeping. I believe that if there was a real latency problem, everything would be falling below the line. The fact that as many of them are as early as late shows that there is no real issue with the device. But let's move on to another game and let's test the latency further. Our next game is Patapon. This is a game that I'd never even heard of before, but somebody in the comments recommended I try it to check the latency. So in this game, we need to push the buttons in time with the rhythm. So again, this will check whether the Retroid Pocket 5 can keep the timing correct. This game feels like there's a little bit of a delay, so I'm going to move on to another game and compare how that feels. Getting into the actual game of Rhythm Fever, there is no issue at all with playing the game. 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. I can get hole in one after hole in one. For a game like this, there's definitely no problem with the input latency whatsoever. And I've not really felt the input latency on any game yet, except Patapon. So you can see that game runs really well. Let's move on to another game. Let's pick up the pace a little bit with Dance Dance Revolution. This game is all about keeping in time, and we can choose our characters from Johnny, Consento, Astro, or Rage. Let's be Rage. So we'll get into the game and we'll see if I can keep in time with the Retroid Pocket 5. Perfect, good, 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 almost. So if I'm going to try to push the button when it's right in the middle and it says almost. If I push it a little bit before it's in there, it's much better. Which might suggest a little bit of latency. Yeah, in order to get this perfect, I need to push it a little bit before it gets into the shape. And I'm not sure if that's the latency from the RP5 or the usual behavior of this game. But what I can say is, as you're watching, it's definitely not an unplayable experience. You can see I'm getting a lot of great and perfect scores, but definitely the latency is absolutely fine. I do notice that it registers a little bit after I press it, but I'm not sure if that's an issue with the game or the latency, but I'm certainly not having any problems playing the game. So now let's move on to another game in a similar style, and I think I might be the only person in the world who ever actually paid money to buy this game. Yes, this is Pop Idol UK. This is a game I had a demo of as a kid, and I wanted the game so desperately that I got my dad to call various stores around the country, and we ended up having to drive more than an hour to go and pick it up. Nobody had it in stock because I think nobody wanted it. But I loved it, it's a great memory for me, and it is a rhythm game, so let's see if we can keep in pace on the Retroid Pocket 5. Also, every loading screen has Simon Cowell on it. We've got a really nice collection of classic ballads, which I'm sure will all definitely be copyrighted, so unfortunately we're not going to be able to listen to them together, but it's okay, because I will sing it for you! My loneliness is killing me, and I... So as the icons fly through the screen, it's working absolutely fine. I'm getting cool, good, great, I'm even getting some perfect scores. I'm definitely having no problem with the latency whatsoever on this game. I will say even in dance mode, it is pretty slow. But again, another rhythm game that is based purely on your timing, there are no issues with this whatsoever. It's working very well. You can see my final result. I messed up once, I messed up a little bit once, I had none that were in the middle, I had 9 that were great, and 31 that were pretty much perfect. So I think this is a pretty good representation that the latency on this device is pretty good. But let's not stop there, because now we have the GOAT rhythm game, Parappa the Rapper. This to me is the ultimate rhythm game. This is legendary. If I can run this in time, the latency is good enough for me. Okay, after testing this for a while, it seems that the timing of the game is completely broken. It's nothing to do with the Retroid Pocket 5, it just seems like the game doesn't match the music whatsoever. I searched online and I found lots of other people with the same issue with this particular game. As we play, it doesn't seem to match at all. So I don't think this actually turned out to be a very good test. Overall, from my testing, it seemed that the games were very responsive, and before I read all of the comments asking me to check the input, it honestly wasn't something that even crossed my mind, because in every game I played so far, I haven't noticed any input lag issues whatsoever. Whether it's old SNES games, NES games, whether it's new games on new mythical consoles, I've not noticed any problems with input latency, and after testing these rhythm games as well, I would say they're all perfectly playable on the RP5. So I hope this video helped any of you who had concerns about input latency. If there's anything more you think I should do to test the input latency, please let me know and I will go ahead and do that. But for now, I'd like to say thank you very much for watching. Please subscribe and I'll see you again very shortly for another video on the RP5. Thank you very much. Hello everyone and welcome back to the Ryan Retro channel. Today with our Retroid Pocket 5, we're going to try out game streaming with Moonlight from a Windows PC. I had this request a lot in the comments, so I want to help you guys out, but unfortunately I sold my PC a couple of years ago, so I don't have a PC to try this with. But it's okay because I live in South Korea, and in South Korea we have something amazing called PC bangs. So let me introduce you guys to the South Korean PC bang. Let's go. This is a PC bang or PC room. They are filled with high-end, top-of-the-line gaming PCs, as well as incredibly comfortable chairs, gaming headsets, gaming mice, gaming keyboards, and even a place to charge your phone. Here you'll find lots of friends, couples, and even just some girls on their own shooting monsters in the crotch. One of the amazing things about PC bangs is you can order food straight from the computer itself, and the workers will just bring the food to your desk. You don't have to move at all. I chose the chicken mayo rice bowl and strawberry smoothie. They were delicious. As well as having a high-end gaming PC in the PC bang, you also have incredibly fast internet with 700 to 800 megabyte download and upload speed. Unfortunately, all of the computers are wired and not connected to a Wi-Fi network, which means we're going to have to bridge the gap between the Retroid Pocket's Wi-Fi connection and the wired connection of the computer. In order to do this, I downloaded a free utility called Zero Tier. It allows you to make your own private network and connect to it from both the computer and your Retroid Pocket. The downside to this is that I'm not using the 800 megabit per second wired connection. I'm instead using the Wi-Fi, which is far slower. The PC bang is very popular, so you're sharing that Wi-Fi connection with very many people. I have no doubt that if you're doing this test at home with a fast Wi-Fi connection, you can get better results than me. This video from my iPhone shows the screen of my camera recording the screen of my Retroid Pocket 5, streaming the screen of the computer. So it was quite a convoluted test, and I hope you appreciate the effort I'm putting in to try and help you guys. Also, I wanted to show a test of a big game like Battlefield 5, but every time I tried to install it, it blue screened the computer and the computer had to restart. And in order to protect privacy at a PC bang, whenever the computer is restarted, it wipes all the information that you installed on it. So what should have been about a 30-minute test today took me over 3 hours. So please, if you would be so kind, hit the subscribe and like buttons because I really tried hard to do this for you guys. Now, getting into the tests, I used Moonlight, which comes pre-installed on the Retroid Pocket 5. There's no need to install it, and I connected it to Sunshine on the computer. Once connected, I was able to launch into Steam Big Picture mode and connect everything with the controller flawlessly. The first game we'll be testing today is Traveler's Rest. I wanted to start with something very simple. This is a really cute game that me and my girlfriend have been really enjoying playing together. I really would love to get this working on the Retroid Pocket 5 through something like Winlator or perhaps through Linux. When it comes to streaming, it worked flawlessly. If you'd like to see more detailed specs, you can pause the video and look at the top left of the Retroid Pocket 5 screen, where you can see the frame rate, the resolution, and if there are any dropped frames. I ran all of these tests at 1920 by 1080 at 60 Hz, and because of the slow Wi-Fi, I had to run the test at 20 megabits per second. I would have liked to have tried 100 or 150 megabits per second, but actually in my testing, the screen was very crispy. I didn't see a need to raise it any higher than it currently was on a screen this size. Our next game that we're testing is Portal 2. Again, the controls worked flawlessly right from the beginning, and everything just played lovely. It was very smooth and it worked very easily. Now, in order to test the latency, I felt like I should get a first-person shooter running. So I tried to load up Fortnite or PUBG, but unfortunately they both weren't working on the computer. It was nothing to do with the Retroid Pocket 5. The computer was being a little bit strange today. So instead, I thought to myself, what is the most iconic shooting game of the last 15 years? The one that we should test on any new device to make sure it's a worthwhile purchase. And then I remembered, yes, I am happy to report to you guys, the Retroid Pocket 5 can run Crysis. So if any of you were on the fence about buying the Retroid Pocket 5, I think after that revelation, you know what to do. I realize this video is a little short. Again, I really wanted to include more conclusive testing, but the computer just wasn't being my friend today. It crashed on me many times, and I really tried my best to show a few different games. If there is anything else you would like me to do, please let me know. But I hope just from these few games that I showcased, you can see they all run perfectly smooth. They looked fantastic. There was no latency I could feel whatsoever. Even on a quite slow-ish Wi-Fi connection, everything felt snappy, it felt responsive. I didn't notice any kind of lag or latency at all. I was looking at both the Retroid Pocket screen and the computer screen together. They seemed perfectly in sync, so I'm incredibly happy with the PC capabilities of this device. Of course, if you have a lower end PC or a slower internet connection, or maybe you're really far away from your Wi-Fi router or the PC, it could be different. But unfortunately, I'm not able to test all of those scenarios. I can only work with what I have. So I hope this was helpful to someone out there. If it was, please leave a like, a comment, and subscribe. And I really hope to see you again tomorrow when I'm going to be testing out some more secret console games and also some AAA Android games. So look out for those and I'll see you soon. Thank you. Hello everyone and welcome back to the Ryan Retro channel. First of all, I'd like to say a really big thank you to everybody who subscribed. I just hit 1,000 subscribers in just 6 days on this channel. That is insane. Seriously, thank you so much to everyone who liked, commented, and subscribed. I love you guys. So, in order to celebrate, what better thing to do than to bring back the secret console? Yes, by popular demand, here is another video on the mythical console that shall not be named. If you missed my first episode on the secret console, check out the card at the top right of the screen or in the description to see the first episode testing some different games to what we'll see today. I also gave you 2 big tips that will help you run games smoothly. And once again today, I'm going to give you 2 big tips to help you get everything running smoothly on your Retroid Pocket 5. So first of all, what better place to start than probably the most requested game on the console? I can't say the name for obvious reasons, so let's just call it Little Prince Boy Exhale of the Crazy. So this game is running, honestly this game, we don't usually run it on this console. This game is usually run on the Wii U, but for some reason my copy of it just isn't working. It gets stuck when he opens his eyes at the beginning of the game and I just get a white screen. I searched the internet and it's a very common issue. It's been happening for years on various systems, from handhelds to computers. So I don't know whether I need to try a different file of the game or whether I need to change some settings, but so far the Wii U version is not working for me. But this is the mythical console version, and right now it's running at 30 frames per second, but it is dipping down sometimes to around 20. I think this frame rate is going to be quite hard to see on the screen. So using the floating icon built into the Retroid Pocket 5, we can bring a floating FPS counter onto the screen. So I'll put that somewhere where you can see it, and hopefully you're going to be able to see what kind of frame rate we're getting as I run around. You'll see it's mostly solid around 30 frames per second. It is occasionally dipping, but it runs quite well. I have the feeling that when you get into more intense battles and further into the game, this might be a little bit tricky to run. But just the fact that it's running so well at the moment is really encouraging. So in order to test it a little bit, I'm gonna go skydiving. Let's go! Well, I managed to maintain 31 frames per second throughout that, so it's running quite well. I'll have to see how it goes further into the game, but for now, I'm just impressed that it runs. Let's move on to another game, because we kind of failed this one. For the remainder of these tests, I'll keep the frame rate up here in the top right corner. So you're actually going to see the frame rate in both top corners, so hopefully one of them at least will be visible in all situations. This game is one that I just picked up yesterday, and I have two of the same game in this series. It's very cute and it runs at a completely solid 60 frames per second. Okay, it seems like I spoke too soon. The game has just completely crashed about 10 seconds after I said it was running flawlessly. Anyway, let's get into the next game because it's basically exactly the same game, but in 3D. This is game number 5 in the same series, and this time it's in true 3D. This game runs at 30 frames per second instead of 60, but as you can see, it holds the 30 frames per second very solidly. We can run around, we can swing our sword, everything is perfectly smooth, never dropping below 30 frames per second. The next game I'd like to show you is a bit of a curveball, no pun intended. This is a game that I used to love on my old Windows phone years ago. The whole game is only 50 megabytes, which is crazy. Some of the photos I take on my professional camera are more than 50 megabytes, just for a picture. This whole game is 50 megabytes and it's really fun. Of course it runs fine on this device. It used to run fine on phones from years ago, but it looks very crispy with the cartoony art style, and you can control it either with the control stick or you can control it with the touchscreen, and both work really well. The game is called Tennis in the Face, and the goal is to hit clowns in the face with tennis balls. It's just a silly game that's really fun and addictive to play. Trying to hit them both in the face with only one ball is just so addictive. And it's a game that you can just pick up and play easily whenever you only have a few minutes to play a game, and you don't really want to think too much about the storyline or any difficult challenges. I highly recommend checking out Tennis in the Face. Our next game is pretty much exactly the same game as the one we saw 2 games ago, but with a different skin on it. It's running here at around 48 frames per second. When I tried it yesterday, it was running really smoothly, and it seems to be dropping frames a little bit today. But still, 48 seconds is something I would definitely consider playable. Of course, a solid 60 would be preferred, but personally, anything above 30 is fine for me, especially a cozy game like this. It's not a Twitch shooter. So you can run around harvesting plants and playing a cozy game like this with around 40 to 45 frames per second. And just before we move on, here's one more game in the cozy farm sim genre. This one is really funny. It begins by name-dropping competing games, saying that your character was asleep and you were dreaming, and talking about things like Harvest and Stardew, which are the competitors in the genre. It makes no mistake about the games it took inspiration from, but this one has you running around cleaning up grass with a sword. It's really cute, really fun. It runs at a very solid 60 frames per second, never really dropping below 59. It reminds me of Littlewood that I showed in the previous Secret Console video, and it's just a really fun time on the RP5. I think it's a game really suited to a little handheld like this, especially once again with such a great screen. Every game I play on this device, the colors just pop out of it. For anybody who's ordered the RP5 and hasn't received it yet, you are going to love this screen, trust me. Moving on to a new genre now, but keeping in line with games that are going to run perfectly smooth at 60 frames per second, here we have a game about a little boy trying to defeat dragons. This game is really cute because as you run through the level, you actually transform into different characters. It's also kind of a puzzle game because as you run through the levels, you'll realize that a lot of the ways you go are not the correct way. So you end up having to backtrack and find different ways and try and find what is the correct way to get to the next level. It's sometimes really fun and sometimes a little bit infuriating, honestly, but it's a very cute game and one that runs absolutely flawlessly. So for example, this one you probably think you have to jump over here and run to the next part. But if you do that, it takes you back to the beginning. So what you actually have to do is go down here. Here again, if you go down to the right, you'll get taken back to the beginning part, so you have to go down to the left. There's a lot of trial and error involved. So here we're going to fight a boss, the Mecha Dragon. This is probably one of the hardest bosses I've ever fought in any game ever, because you have to hit him in the head, but it's so hard to hit him in the head because it's covered in spikes. If anyone plays this game regularly and has any tips about how to play it, please let me know, because this is very difficult. Moving on to something more fast-paced now, we have the Prince of Persia. This runs absolutely flawlessly on this console at 60 frames per second without ever dropping down. Back in the Little Prince world, we have an HD remaster of a classic game. It looks beautiful and runs at a very smooth 60 frames per second. The feel of this game is very responsive and you can feel that it's definitely going to be a smooth experience. I'm going to be including this game in an upcoming video where I'm going to be comparing original games with their HD remasters on various platforms on the Retroid Pocket 5. If you're interested in seeing those comparison videos, please subscribe and wait for that. So now let's talk about those 2 big tips I mentioned in order to keep everything running smoothly. First of all, go to the GPU driver manager and change it from the system GPU driver Qualcomm driver to a Mesa Turnip driver. The one that I'm using is revision 9v2. I did try out the newer version 12, but that one gave me some crashes. So at least for now, I would recommend you to try the 9v2 driver. So by selecting this, it will then launch all of your games with the Turnip driver by default. Since making this change, I've had almost no crash with any game. The only crashes I've had, upon further research online, I found that they're really common, and people have been having these crashes for years, so it's not specific to this device. Once you have the Mesa Turnip driver selected, you're pretty much good to go. The only issue I had, which I talked about in the last video, was that there was a problem with the audio crackling and stuttering. I'm really happy to tell you that I've now fixed that completely. So in order to fix that, we're going to go into the advanced settings of the app, go to audio, and then under output engine, this will be set to auto. We want to change it to Cubeb. C-U-B-E-B, Cubeb. I'm not sure how to say it sounds fun. So make sure you set your output engine to Cubeb, and from then you shouldn't have any audio issues whatsoever. Everything should be running fine. So long as there's no other issue causing crashes, the kind that have been prevalent for years, everything should now be running fine. You should be emulating the secret mythical console very well at 30 to 60 frames per second on pretty much any game you'd like to play with no audio problems, no crashes, and decent frame rates. So if this video was helpful to you, please give me a like, please leave a comment and subscribe, and I'll be happy to see you again in tomorrow's video, where we're going to be looking at AAA Android games, and yet again, I have a big tip to help you out. Thanks for watching. Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be talking about Android emulation and emulating AAA Android games on the Retroid Pocket 5. I'm also going to give you a big tip to get your controller working properly with any game you might want to play, so stick around for that. Let's start with one of the most popular Android games, Genshin Impact. As you can see, I've got all of the controls mapped out, so I can move with the left stick, I can rotate the camera with the right stick, I can run quickly, I can jump, I can attack, I can control the game completely with the controller. I don't need to use the screen for anything at all, and I'm going to show you how to do this in any game you'd like to play. As I run around, if you look at the top corner of the screen, we're getting a completely solid 30 frames per second. Whether I'm running, attacking, it always stays very solid. This is a good device to play Genshin Impact. Our next game is PUBG, PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds, and you can see once again we have a consistent 30 frames per second. Once again, I can control everything using the controls on the device. I never play Battle Royale shooters like PUBG or Fortnite, so I'm probably just going to embarrass myself in this video. But this is not a showcase of my gaming skills. This video is just to help you guys. So I'm hoping I can find a gun somewhere. I'm also not sure how to run, so I'm kind of just slowly walking around in a gunfight. It seems like I'm walking through the ocean. Where am I? Okay, I finally have a gun, but how do I run? I guess I can't run through this river. So far it's just a walking simulator. Actually, it's more like a wading simulator. So I've configured buttons to jump, to crouch, and to go prone. I can also look down the side and shoot. I have all the buttons set up. So hopefully if somebody does come near me, we can have a good gunfight. I've found a bike. I don't know where I'm going or what I'm doing, but I've got a bike! I had a bike. I got a kill! Ryan Retro is on the leaderboard! So I've programmed the right stick to control the view, but you definitely get more control by using just your finger on the screen. So for something like a first-person shooter, I probably will just use my finger on the screen when I can. But having the control is very nice. I have 8 bullets and I don't know how to get any more, so hopefully it's enough. Oh, we won. Okay, never mind. We win! Hooray! Okay, my first ever game of PUBG. Going to admit I got kind of carried in that game, but you know what? I got a couple of kills, so not too bad, and the controls felt really lovely. Very solid first impression with the Retroid Pocket 5. Let's move on to the next game. So PUBG ran at a very solid 30 frames per second throughout the whole game. Now let's move on to a more fun game, Fall Guys. At least more fun to me. I realize that might be a controversial statement. Again, we seem to be running at a solid 30 frames per second. And games like this are really nice to play with a controller. Definitely much better than the touch controls. Oh, somebody's grabbing me. Get off! We made it through the first round. Let's move on to the next round. Okay, I have absolutely no idea what I'm doing in this game. Okay, well, it took me half of the round to figure out what I was meant to be doing, but I still qualified somehow. Okay, next round. I guess we have to just try to not fall in. I'm just going to stand here and just... Oh, be careful. Oof. Okay, nice. Okay, the final round. Avoid jumping on patterned tiles. Okay, I've never tried this one before. Not exactly sure what a patterned tile is. What just happened? Hey, leave me alone. Oh no. Well, I got to the final round, not too bad. The game runs at a perfectly solid 30 frames per second. Definitely very playable. Next, let's jump into a really popular online game, Call of Duty Mobile. And now I'll show you how I set up the controls in a way that works perfectly in every game. So jumping into the practice range, you can see I can control my movement with the left stick. I can look around with the right stick. I can use the left trigger to look down the sights. Depending on the game, you can use the right trigger to shoot the gun, but in this game it automatically shoots for you. We can also use buttons to reload, we can use buttons to jump and crouch, we can use buttons to change weapons. I've set up the buttons to do everything I'd usually do when playing Call of Duty on a console. So, how did I do it? I'm now going to run you through this. So what I'll do first of all is I'll erase all of my controls and start again with you. When you're using the Retroid Pocket 5, if you swipe down from the top and move over one page, you'll see floating icon. You need to turn this on, then you'll see this very thin white bar on the right side. If you swipe in, that will give you all the controls that you need. That's also how I show the frames per second on the screen. Down at the bottom, you'll see the frames per second, as well as the temperatures and usage of various components, like the CPU and the memory. It doesn't look like it, but the FPS counter is actually a button, and if you tap on it, it will then bring the floating FPS reader onto the screen, and if you tap it again, it will turn it off. So I'll leave it on. When I come out of this menu, you'll be able to see the floating FPS. You can move it around the screen, and if you want to turn it off, you once again come back to the menu, push FPS, and it will go away. So, now let's talk about how we set up these buttons. So when you swipe in from the right, you want to go to this blue button, the first one, key adapter. So tap that and you'll get this floating menu that lets you set up your key bindings. If you want to move it around, we have these blue arrows to move this around the screen. We also have a little pencil if you want to give a name to your control settings, if you want to use a few different ones. I don't do that. We also have a download button if you want to download your settings and share with other people. We have an eraser, which I'm going to use now. That's going to erase all of my button bindings. And we also have a hexagon button, which we'll talk about soon. The main buttons we're going to be focusing on are the first three. The first one is a button. The second one is the left analog stick. And the third one is the right analog stick. So first of all, let's get the left analog stick set up to move our character. This blue button here will confirm your changes. So I just erased all my buttons using the eraser. I will now confirm it, and you'll see now I have no button input at all. I have to use the screen. The buttons are not doing anything. So if we now swipe in from the right, go to key adapter, I want to grab the left analog stick control. That will be the second icon here. The first one is a button, the second one is the left analog stick. So if I just grab and drag this onto the screen, you can see here I have an L with a blue circle around it. So wherever I drag that on the screen, that will correspond to the left analog stick. So you want to line this up with the on-screen control, the one that you use to control the screen. So if I drag this over here, and it doesn't have to be perfect, but let's just try and line up the L in the middle circle. Now, if I push the blue button to confirm, now when I move this stick, it's going to move this. So I can move this with my finger, or I can now move it with the stick. So I've now got movement, but nothing else yet. So let's get some buttons working. So first of all, I want to set up the left trigger button to be looking down the sight of the gun. So in the game, we have this crosshair icon. When we tap that, it looks down the sight of the gun. So in the key adapter, I'll grab the first option, which is a button, and I will drag that onto that crosshair icon. Again, it doesn't have to be perfect. Now you can see that there's a blue circle around it. That means it's waiting for your input. Whatever you push will now correspond to this button. So if I push the A button and say confirm. Now when I push the A button, it's going to push that area of the screen for me. So it's the same as tapping on it with my finger, but I don't want to use the A button for this. I want to use the left trigger. So we want to change that. So let's swipe in from the side, go to key adapter, and you can see that A button has a white border. If you tap on it, it will give some options we don't need to look at now. So we'll just click out of this. And now you can see the outline is blue. And again, it's waiting for input. So now I'm going to push the left trigger. And now you can see it's changed from A to L2. So this time when I push confirm, now the A button is doing nothing, and that left trigger is now allowing me to look down the sights. So I'm going to now do this for the other few buttons. We have jump, which I want to be B. We have crouch, which I want to be A. And we have reload, which I want to be Y. So once again, we repeat the same process. Swipe in from the right, key adapter, grab more buttons. We can just throw them all on now. You can see right now they are just blank. They have no assignments. So the first one over here is selected because it's blue. That is jump, so I want that to be B. I will then tap this one, which I want to be A, and then I will tap this one, which I want to be Y. Now if we again confirm, those buttons should all be working. So this one is crouch, this one is jump, and if I shoot my gun, I can now use Y to reload. So what should we do next? Well, I probably want one more button configuration to change between the knife or the gun without tapping on the screen. So I think for this, maybe I'll use the bumper buttons, or perhaps even the X button. So how do we do that? Well, once again, we swipe in from the side, go to key adapter, bring over a button, push what we want it to be, bring over another button, and again, push what we want it to be. Now I pretty much have all of my buttons assigned how I want them. There's only one thing left, which is control and camera movement. Now, this is something that a lot of people struggle with, so I want to give you a big tip to help you do this correctly. So if you swipe in from the right and you click key adapter, remember I said the first option is a button, the second option is the left analog stick, and the third option is the right analog stick. So we want to choose the third option and drag it into the screen. Because this is controlling camera movement, it doesn't really matter where it is. It just needs to not be overlapping another button. So I like to either keep it in the middle or keep it where I think I would usually use my finger. So maybe around here somewhere. So by putting it there and confirming, it should work perfectly, right? But as you walk around, you're going to see it really doesn't work well at all. And that's because this is not the correct configuration. If we use a different kind of game that doesn't have camera movement, it could work perfectly fine. But for a game where you specifically want to move the camera around, we need to change this configuration. This is something that trips up a lot of people, so I hope this will be helpful to you once you get your RP5. So let's swipe over from the right, go to key adapter. Now, if we tap on the right analog stick control, it will bring up this menu. By default, it is set to virtual joystick mode for games that use joysticks. But in this case, we want to control the camera movement. So we're going to change from virtual joystick mode to adjust view mode. And then when we press save and confirm, it will now be acting as we expect it to. But there is one more issue. The issue is it's a little bit too fast, especially when moving up and down. When you control the game with your finger, we're usually moving left and right, and we're not moving up and down as much. So what we want to do is slow down the up and down movement. And if you go into the settings once more by tapping on the right stick, it says here, in a shooting game, increase the sensitivity in the left and right directions and reduce the sensitivity in the up and down directions. Of course, this is all personal preference, but I have found that that really does help my experience. So the x-axis is the left and right direction. We can leave that as it is or change it to your personal taste. But for the y-axis, the up and down direction, I like to move this all the way down to the bottom, 20%. Again, it's personal preference, but when we save that, you will see I have much greater control of where I'm looking. I'm not moving up and down a lot. I'm keeping my aim fairly level to the horizon. And of course I can move up and down, but you wouldn't usually want to move up and down too much too quickly. Now that all the controls are set up, you will see overlays showing which button to press to activate each icon. That's great at first when you want to remember what the buttons are, but after a while, if you feel comfortable with all the buttons and you feel like you don't need to see these control names anymore, you can hide them. And that's where the very last button comes into play. So opening the key adapter and going to this hexagon icon, there's a couple of settings. The first one turns on a static background, but what I would suggest once you know the controls is to bring the scheme transparency all the way down to 0. Now you will see all of the icons are gone, but everything is still functioning perfectly, and you can jump into your game and control it flawlessly. When it comes to controlling the camera, it's great to have it set up on the right analog stick, but I still do prefer using the screen, because when you use the analog stick, you only have this range of motion from here to here. Whereas when you use your thumb, you've got the whole screen you can use, so you can really finely control if you move slowly or quickly. Again, that's personal preference, but it's just another tip for you guys, and I hope it's helpful. Now that we've got our controls all set up, let's jump into a game and see how they work. Let's jump into a quick game against AI, just to show how the controls work. Now you'll see getting into the real game, one thing I haven't done is I haven't mapped any controls for kill streaks. So here's a quiz for you. How can we map controls for kill streaks? So we're going to swipe in from the right again, go to the key adapter, and then move some more buttons. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to remove this L1 and R1 buttons. I just drag them up to the top and you'll see it says move here to delete button. So let's erase the L1 and R1 buttons, and instead I'm just going to use the X button to switch between my gun and my knife. So now we have a few buttons available. So for the first kill streak, maybe let's choose L1. For the second one, R1. And then for the last one, what button do we have? Maybe we can click in one of the sticks, like L3 or R3. Let's say L3. Now when I confirm, I should now be able to use the kill streak. So I'll try one by one. So L1. Here it comes. Oh, Predator missile. Then we have R1, and then lastly we can click in this stick for our last kill streak, and you can see it all works perfectly. So it's really easy to adapt on the fly and get the games running how you want them to. So that was a quick guide showing you how to set up the Android controller on the Retroid Pocket 5 to control any game you want, how you want. I hope it was helpful. If it was, please give me a like. Maybe share a comment down below, and please subscribe to see another new helpful video again tomorrow. Thank you for watching. Bye. Hello everyone, today we're going to test game streaming with GeForce Now on the Retroid Pocket 5. We're going to run some AAA computer games such as Battlefield 5 and Fortnite on a device that can fit in your pocket. Kind of. We're also going to compare the free version of GeForce Now with a premium account to see if it's worth the money. Just so you're aware, my download speed is around 200 megabits per second, and I'm going to use a timer to count how long it takes to get into a game on the free version and the paid version. So first of all, let's begin by launching the free version of Battlefield 5. We'll start the timer and we'll see how long it takes to get into a game. 20 minutes later, and we are now loading into the game, finally. Okay, so it took 21 minutes and 22 seconds to finally get through the queue and be loaded into my Steam client with the Battlefield game ready to launch. Later in the video, we'll compare how long it takes to get into the game with a paid Nvidia account. For now, let's jump into the game and see how it runs. I'm going to join a large server as close to full capacity as possible with good ping. I'm also going to choose Wake Island for both my tests because it reminds me of the old Battlefield 2 days. Let's jump into the game. One thing I would like to do is enable gyro controls, but I don't think it's possible in GeForce Now. If I'm wrong, please let me know. You can see the top right of the screen, we have the FPS counter running at a smooth 60. I just shot my gun once and apparently that won the game. I think I scared the other guys off. One thing I will do is I will change the controller style to Xbox style for this game. I really like how quick and easy that is to do on the Retroid Pocket 5. You can go into the settings and go down to handheld settings, input, controller style and change it there, but it's so nice just to have a little quick menu to toggle it right there. After crashing, it won't let me join another Wake Island server, I don't know why. So here we are in a different map, and let's see how the performance is. Okay, we got a kill, nice. I don't remember the buttons. Oh my gosh. Well, I can't believe I won that because I couldn't remember what any of the buttons were. Anyway, it seems to be running pretty well. I'm very happy with the performance on the free version. The only problem is that 21 minutes and 22 seconds wait time. So now, let's upgrade to the paid version and see how long it takes to get into the game. I just purchased the Priority membership, which is about to be renamed to Performance and upgraded from 1080p to 1440p. The Retroid Pocket 5 is a 1080p 60Hz device. We were able to buy the Ultimate subscription, which is 4K 120 frames per second, but it just wouldn't be worth it for the Retroid Pocket, as the improvements wouldn't even be visible. So for half of the price, $9.99, I went for the Performance upgrade. So now let's see how long it takes to get into a game, and see if we can beat our current record of 22 minutes. So once again, we'll choose Battlefield 5, we'll press play, and we'll see how long it takes now to get into a game. So start the timer. This time there was no queue whatsoever, it just went straight into loading. Before, we were around 90 places in the queue. Now we seem to have skipped the queue completely, and the game is loading. Okay, let's stop the timer. We've finished loading, we're now into our Steam setup within GeForce Now. It took 1 minute and 11 seconds, a cool 21 minutes faster than the free plan. So if you're going to use this service often, I really think it's worth upgrading. $10 a month is not too bad. I think that's even cheaper than Netflix these days, isn't it? If you're only playing games occasionally, maybe once a week, or you have time to spare, then for sure go with the free plan. But to trade a 22-minute wait for a 1-minute wait, if it's something you're doing often, that's really worth $10 in my opinion. You know what they say, time is money, and every 3 times you load up a game, you've just saved an hour. And an hour is probably worth $10 to most people. So let's jump into the game. I'm not expecting there to be any performance differences, as we were already running at a very smooth 60 frames per second, but I will analyze the game to see if it looks any more detailed than before, now that we should be running at 1080p 60 frames per second, and I'm not actually sure what resolution we were running at before, because it didn't tell me. Jumping back into the game, it looks very similar as it did before, looks very crispy. I just got wrecked by a plane. Thank you, my friend. I'm just getting sniped by vehicles. Battlefield runs flawlessly on this device. It's just a bit hard to see with the small screen, but it's running really well. It looks crispy, solid 60 frames per second. It's a beautiful experience. But now let's jump into a game that's been requested so many times in the comment section of my channel, and one that we'll be able to compare across different streaming services. So let's jump into Fortnite. Once again, we loaded into the game in less than a minute. It worked very quickly with the priority plan of GeForce Now. I played Fortnite once the week it came out, and I think I've pretty much never played it again. So again, don't take this video as a showcase of my skill. This is purely a test to see how well it runs on the Retroid Pocket 5. A few days ago, I tried out Fortnite on Android, and it's something that I will be showing soon in an Android AAA game showcase. I can already tell you that the graphics on this are far ahead of the Android version. This looks incredible. So I'm going to jump out once again. I basically have no idea what I'm doing, and it seems like we're frozen. So that's not very good, especially as we're paying for this service. Okay, we loaded back in, so hopefully from now it'll be smooth sailing. I really don't know how to build or how to play this game, so I just hope I'll be able to get a gun and try and shoot somebody. Oh no, I can't aim. Okay, I'm round the back of them, but I can't aim. Well, the game seems to run well. I just cannot aim and don't really know how to play it, but it's very smooth. It'll be hard to see on the camera, but it looks incredible. It looks so nice. So I'm going to include this in my follow-up video where I'm comparing cross-platform games, such as old Gamecube games versus their high-definition remasters. I'll include Android games versus the cloud gaming counterparts as well, so look forward to seeing that. So after playing a couple of shooting games and checking that the latency is fine and it runs well, let's now jump into a more cozy game. I personally am a huge fan of cozy games, so now let's jump into Palia. Palia is a very cozy game where the purpose is to run around, mine, farm, and just chill. And it just crashed. So we're having a few issues with crashing so far. All 3 games I've tested so far have had crashing issues. Fortnite managed to redeem itself and come back after freezing for a few seconds. Battlefield 5 crashed me out of the map and then I couldn't reconnect. and now Palia crashed as I tried to open the game. So it's definitely not a crash-free experience. After paying $10 for the service, that's a little bit of a shame. So I wonder if it's the service itself, the Android app, or the Retroid Pocket 5 causing the crashes. We're going to have to test more and see. This time I'm using the touchscreen in case one of the buttons I pushed maybe backed me out of the game. I don't think that's the case, but just to be safe, let's just enter the game using the touchscreen, and then when we're into the game, we'll use the control pad. Palia is a game I've put a ton of hours into on my Steam Deck, so I'm really curious to see how it runs here. Let's go help this guy chop this tree down. Oh, she doesn't need any help, okay? The game looks great, it sounds great, it's running at a smooth 60 or 59 frames per second. The controls are working well, everything is very playable and looks great. Apart from the few crashes we've had so far, I would say that GeForce Now is working really well on the Retroid Pocket 5. The only issues are of course those crashes, and I do think the subscription is kind of necessary if you don't want to wait 22 minutes. Tomorrow I'll review Xbox Game Pass and compare it to Nvidia GeForce Now, so make sure you subscribe so you can watch that. I hope this video was helpful, please leave me a like. Share any comments you have about the Retroid Pocket 5, and after watching this video, if you'd like to buy your own Retroid Pocket 5, you can click the affiliate link down in the description. It'll take you to the official Retroid Pocket website, which is where I bought my one. So I hope this video was helpful, and I look forward to seeing you again in the next video tomorrow. Thank you for watching. Hello everyone, and welcome back to the Ryan Retro channel. In today's video, we're going to look at the Xbox Game Pass, the monthly subscription service that lets you play lots of Xbox games on the cloud. Yesterday we covered Nvidia GeForce Now. Nvidia GeForce Now lets you play your game collection wherever you want, but you have to own the games. With Xbox Game Pass, you get all of the games included with the monthly fee. It's like Netflix for games. So I'm very curious to see how well it works on the Retroid Pocket 5 and how it compares with Nvidia GeForce Now. Where I live in South Korea, Xbox Game Pass is actually around $2 cheaper than Nvidia GeForce Now, while also including all the games. So on paper it seems like a better deal. Let's compare how it runs. So first of all, let's jump into a shooting game so we can get a feel for the latency. So in order to stream the games to the Retroid Pocket 5, we need to use xCloud, which runs in the browser. This sometimes runs into a few issues. So there is an open source project being developed called Better xCloud. This lets you install an Android app which contains xCloud and is said to run much better, so I'm going to try that for today's tests. And this project is actually endorsed by the development team at xCloud, so there's nothing strange or dodgy about it, it should all be fine to run. Also, as a point of comparison, let's do a speed test. In the previous video I uploaded yesterday about Nvidia GeForce Now, the paid version launched the game in 1 minute and 11 seconds. Let's see how long it takes to launch a game inside Xbox Game Pass. So I'll reset the timer, I'll press play, and let's start the timer now. Well, it seems to be in the game already, and that was about 5 seconds. So I guess this is pretty quick. Okay, we're now in the menu of the game, and the first thing I have to say is it's really blurry. It's really not sharp at all. I'm not sure if we can change that in the settings, but it's not nearly as sharp as GeForce Now. I'll set the target resolution to 1080p, and the visual quality to high, and we'll see if that improves things. Now it looks much sharper. This is going to be my first time playing Call of Duty in probably around 12 years. I used to play all the time when I was a teenager and I really loved it. But it's been a very long time. But I think it's a perfect game to test out latency and how snappy and responsive the cloud gaming service is on the Retroid Pocket 5. The visual quality is really nice now since I turned up those settings. So hopefully we can get a smooth 60 frames per second like this. And let's see how it goes. Oh, if I could use the controller better, I think I could have got the kill there. It started well, and then I lost control of the right stick. I will say it feels a little bit delayed. My movements feel a tiny little bit delayed. When I was using GeForce Now, everything was immediate and snappy. This feels a little bit delayed. So maybe what I need to do is turn that resolution and settings down. But it's definitely playable. And I'm not sure if this is just how the game feels, because I haven't played this game in a very long time, and I've never played this version of the game. So it might be normal. Now jumping into Forza 5, once again there seems to be the same issue I experienced with Call of Duty, that everything feels a little bit delayed. So what I will do is go into the settings and put everything back to default again. It's setting everything back to default and there's no change whatsoever. I will say this game looks amazing. Obviously I'm not playing it very well because I'm trying to look at the camera and make sure everything is recording okay, but it looks amazing. Welcome to Goatville! We're now in Goat Simulator, and unsurprisingly, this works absolutely flawlessly at 60 frames per second. Get licked! Oh wow, my tongue is doing some damage. What is happening? I'm not feeling any kind of latency in this game. It feels very, very smooth. How long is that tongue? Oops. Oh. Oh, what's happening? You can hit me with a truck, but you can't stop this tongue. So I think here is as good a place as any to put the console down and think about what we've done today. For $20 a month, you get access to over 300 games you can stream from the cloud directly to your Retroid Pocket 5. I was feeling something that felt like latency as I played, but definitely not anything horrible. It was so minimal that I wasn't actually sure if I was feeling it or not. And with the Game Pass, you're able to play plenty of AAA games on a device that can fit in your pocket. Well, if you have quite large pockets anyway. So I definitely think it's worth a trial, even for just 1 month, to see if it's for you. I will do more testing and play around with both the Xbox Game Pass and the Nvidia GeForce Now subscriptions over the next month, and I'll release a more comprehensive, detailed video comparing the two services. The game library, the performance, and the value proposition, and I'll let you know which one I think is worth your money. If this video helped you, please leave me a like, share a comment with anything you'd like to see me do next with the Retroid Pocket 5. If you'd like to get your own Retroid Pocket 5, check out the description where I have an affiliate link to the official Retroid website, the same place where I got mine. Thank you for watching, please subscribe to see more videos every single day, and I'll see you again tomorrow. Thank you so much. Hello everyone and welcome back to another episode about the Retroid Pocket 5. Today marks 10 days since I started this channel and already we're almost at 1,500 subscribers. That is amazing! Thank you so much to everybody who's watched the channel so far. Thank you to everyone who left a like, a comment and subscribe. I'm so overwhelmed by the positive reaction I've had so far, and I will strive to keep creating good Retroid Pocket 5 videos for you every single day. I already recognize some of the same faces appearing in the comments every day, and it's so lovely to see the same people again and again. I feel like we're already growing a community here, and I am so honored and grateful for all of the nice comments and messages you've left me so far. Seriously, thank you guys. So 10 days since receiving the Retroid Pocket 5 and making this YouTube channel, I thought it would be a good time to talk about your frequently asked questions. I'll try to answer some of them in this video, as well as my other videos that will be coming up on other days of the week, and also just tell you a few quality of life things about the Retroid Pocket. I will be making a full comprehensive review, but I'll be doing that after 1 month of using the device. I really want to put it through its paces so that I can tell you all of the good and all of the bad in detail. So let's get into your comments. So first of all, we have a comment saying that input latency is always a thing with wireless controllers. This is something I touched upon in my TV video. Bluetooth audio latency is usually more problematic. Have you tried any earbuds? So as of yet, I have not done that. So let's try my AirPod Pros. I'll put them in and I'll let you know if there's any latency. And then after that, I'll use a Bluetooth speaker so you can also hear the latency for yourself. I just played some YouTube videos and jumping into a game. I'm not noticing any huge audio delay. Everything seems pretty snappy. Now bringing in a Bluetooth speaker so you can hear everything. There doesn't seem to be any noticeable delay. It's actually running much better than I expected it to. And with this lovely screen and Bluetooth speaker, this is beautiful. Also, I wanted to show that gyro is working for this game. I can actually control it with gyro, which is lovely. I'm going to make a longer video about this game soon, but here's a spoiler. I'm enjoying this more than I ever did on the original console. So is Bluetooth audio latency problematic? Absolutely not. Our next comment is, can the A, B, X and Y buttons be rearranged? I prefer more of an Xbox style to a Nintendo style. Yes, well if you mean physically rearranging them, yes, the Retroid official website shows you how to move them around. And if you mean rearranging them in software, again yes. If you drag down from the top of the screen, we have this controller style icon, and right now it's on retro, that's what I prefer, but if you want to change it to Xbox, you simply just tap it and it will change to Xbox style. So at any time, in any game, you can change from a retro style game configuration to Xbox style just by pushing this one button. The next comment asked me how much did I pay for import charges. So I paid 30,000 won for import charges, which works out to around $21. How were the ergonomics with the left stick being at the bottom? Did you feel any discomfort while streaming shooters? So I personally prefer the left stick to be at the top. And if there was something I could change about the Retroid Pocket 5, that's probably the number one thing I would change. I feel a lot more comfortable with an analog stick being up here. But as it is, I don't feel any discomfort. It's actually pretty comfortable, especially with the ergonomic grips on the back. So is it uncomfortable? No, but I do wish it was at the top. The next comment asks me, have you tried the secret game Red Hat Italian Man's Journey in a Floating Boat Hat? The Red Hat Italian Man is definitely coming up in one of the upcoming Secret Console videos, so watch out for that. And in general, I've had a lot of requests about games. So I've been putting together a list of recommended games, and I will continue working on these, and I'll put together more showcases in the future. So make sure you subscribe if you want to see more games tested on the Retroid Pocket 5. For Call of Duty, have you tried going into the Retroid settings and switching the input to Xbox and seeing if it works without having to map the screen? Yes, this is something you can do. I released a video showing you how to map the controls on the screen for any game you'd like to play, and I used Call of Duty Mobile as an example because it's a popular game and has lots of icons on the screen, so I could really teach you how to map each icon individually. But for Call of Duty and some other games, you actually don't need to map the controller, and that's something that I should have mentioned in the video. If you swipe down from the top of the screen and change the controller style to Xbox, many games on Android will natively recognize it, and you won't need to map the controls at all. For any games that don't recognize it and you do need to map yourself, you can see that video up here in the card, and I will teach you how to map controls. What type of cable do you use between the TV and the Retroid Pocket 5? So I got this question quite a lot in my TV video. I used a simple USB-C to HDMI cable. This particular one also has a USB-C charging port, so you can charge the device while you're using it. It works really well for the Nintendo Switch, but I'm not sure if it's working fully for the Retroid Pocket 5 yet. Anyway, any USB-C to HDMI cable should work great. Does the fan kick on loud? So the fan doesn't kick on automatically unless you set it to, and if you do set it, in my opinion, yes, it's loud. So from the top menu, we can choose our performance setting, standard, performance, or high performance. For 99% of my usage of the Retroid Pocket 5, I've been keeping it in standard mode, which means the fan is not on. Right now, the fan is not on at all. It gets a little bit hot at the back, but the way the device is made, your hands aren't really covering the vents, so you don't feel it too much. If you do want to boost the performance mode, putting it into performance will turn on the fan on quiet mode, which is barely audible. I don't think you'll even be able to hear this. When putting the fan in smart mode and jumping into a game, the fan doesn't seem to kick on for me. I feel like it should because the back's getting quite hot, but at least so far it's not kicking in. So if we really want the fan to kick in and we set the performance level to high performance and the fan into sport mode, now you'll hear the fan kick in and it's quite loud. I find the sound to be quite annoying, so I really wouldn't like to play with this unless I was playing with earphones in. I'm now going to hold the Retroid Pocket an equal distance away from the microphone that my mouth is. So now you can hear both my voice and also the Retroid Pocket at the same distance from the mic, and you can probably hear how loud that fan is. I wouldn't be comfortable using it like this. So for me personally, I always just keep performance on standard, the fan off, and so far the performance has been fantastic. Once again about the sticks, how do you feel about games that use both sticks and triggers on the RP5? Is it doable for long periods of time with reasonable comfort? Are you able to get into a good flow with the game and not struggle with the controls? Yes, I find this very comfortable. Before I received the RP5, I was a little bit worried about the stick being at the bottom and I thought it would be uncomfortable because I find PlayStation controllers to be quite uncomfortable. But so far, I found it to be very comfortable when playing. I think a lot of that is to do with the grips. Personally, I find the Nintendo Switch to be very uncomfortable, and it's the main reason I didn't buy the Retroid Pocket 4 Pro, because it was flat. These grips go a long way in helping with comfort. They're really ergonomic, and they make gaming for long periods very comfortable. Another thing I love is that the sticks are concave, which means that your thumbs sit in them really comfortably. These are great sticks, and the overall experience is very comfortable for me. This is a question I get a lot. Which app are you using to play the mysterious console? I cannot actually tell you the name of the app, but I can tell you it begins with a Y. So from there, I think you can find out what it is. This is a question that I got a lot recently, and it made me laugh. Are you employed by Retroid? Absolutely not. I'm not affiliated with Retroid in any way. I'm actually a full-time teacher in Korea. I have no relation with Retroid at all. The only one affiliation I have now is I have an affiliate link, which I asked for, and you'll see other YouTubers in this space have too. That means if you buy one of these units from the link in my description, I can make a few dollars. So if you are thinking about buying one, please use my link and I'll be really happy. One of my viewers actually did buy one with my link a few days ago, so thank you so much to whoever that was. And in the same vein, are you employed by Retroid? How were you able to get a review unit? This is the #1 comment on my early videos. How did you get this unit? Well, first of all, this is not a review unit. This is just my unit. I paid the full price for this. This is not a free review unit. I've had a dream to create a channel like this for years. I bought all of these other devices years ago. I'm not going to be able to fit them in the camera, but I bought many little devices years ago that I intended to show on a channel like this. So I emailed Retroid and said, I don't care about the bugs in the unit. I don't care about the problems. I just want to get the device. I want to learn everything about it, and I want to teach people about it, and I want to help others. So could you please just send it to me early? And I didn't expect them to say yes, but thankfully they agreed and they sent it out to me early. So I'm so grateful for that. So if anyone from Retroid does ever watch this video, thank you so much. And then I also did get one more comment yesterday, which unfortunately I don't have a screenshot right now, but someone said, you must work for Retroid because you know so much about the product, which that made me laugh. I am dedicating all of my time to studying this product. When I'm not working at my job, I'm spending all my free time trying to learn about this product so I can make informative videos and help you guys. For everybody who's watched my videos so far and liked and subscribed and left kind comments, thank you so much. I'm truly overwhelmed and I really want to keep bringing you great content every single day. And on that note, I did get a couple of really lovely comments from two people I admire in this scene. I got a great comment from Stubbs from Retro Handheld saying, keep going. That really inspired me. Thank you so much. And I also got one more comment from Retro Gamecore who said, great video, thanks for making it. Thank you so much for these kind comments. They really mean the world to me. I will keep going and I will try to make better content. And I'm going to finish this video with one more test. When you press the power button and sleep or suspend the emulator, does it resume or does it crash? So that is something I've not tested because there is a big problem with the Retroid Pocket 5 right now, which is the battery. One of the reasons it was delayed 2 weeks is that it doesn't sleep. When you turn off the screen, the battery just continues to drain. The first day I had the device, I went to bed with the battery around 50% and I woke up and it was dead. The battery had run out completely. So whenever I'm not using the device, I turn it off. And then when I want to use it again, I turn it on. Thankfully, it turns on very quickly, but it's definitely a bug they need to fix. So I've not yet tested sleeping the device and seeing if it crashes the emulator. So now jumping back into our game, the little Prince Boy game, Exhale of the Crazy, I will bring in a timer. I'm going to go make some food, eat the food, and come back and we'll see if the game has crashed or if it's still playing. So let's start the timer now. Okay, it's been 27 minutes. I'm back with my milkshake, and let's see if the game has crashed. I fully expect it has, by the way. Let's load up the device and... oh, we're still in game! Oh, we're still playing! Oh, that surprised me. So on that note, thank you for watching, everybody. Please like, leave a comment and subscribe, and I'll see you next time, tomorrow, for another video about the Retroid Pocket 5. Thanks for watching. Hello everyone, today let's jump into some PlayStation 2 emulation. There are a lot of amazing PlayStation 2 games. I think in my opinion the PlayStation 2 is probably the best console there's ever been. There's an infinite amount of great games for the PlayStation 2. Today I'm going to share with you just a few that I like, but due to the sheer number of amazing PlayStation games, there will definitely be more episodes in this series in the future. First of all, jumping into The Simpsons Hit and Run, an absolute classic. The game runs really well with the frame rate usually around 60 and sometimes dropping to around 45, but not in a way that's too noticeable. The game always seems smooth and nice to play. I've also noted that it runs even smoother on Gamecube emulation, so if you want to play this game in particular, I would actually recommend playing it on Gamecube. Next up we have an absolute classic, WWE SmackDown, Here Comes the Pain. And we're going to have an extremely fair fight of Goldberg versus Rico. I haven't played this game in around 20 years. I've also brought the controls up here so I can figure out what to do. Okay, getting into the game, it looks like we're around 50 frames per second. By the way, I should mention at this point that all of these tests are being done at 3 times resolution. And because so far in both games we're hovering around 50 frames per second, let's bump that down to 2 times. I just kicked him out of the ring. Looking at the control scheme here, I don't see a way to actually do moves other than just strike attack, run, Irish whip, and counter. How do I just do moves? I think maybe we're running the PAL version of the game where 50 frames per second is the maximum, because this is buttery smooth, and even if I lower down the resolution scaling, I cannot go above 50. So I feel that 50 is the maximum we're working with here. And to test the limit, let's go to 5 times native. Now on 5 times native, seems like we're still okay, 49 frames per second. Going up to 8 times native, now we're slowing down to 33 frames per second. But at least in this game, it seems like a 5 times multiplier is completely playable. Now back to the 5 times scaling, and once again we have that smooth 50 frames per second. Ooh, take that. Oh, here we go. We're gonna hit him with the spear. Ooh, I nearly broke him in half. Now let's finish this off with the jackhammer. Ooh, this game is amazing. It holds up so well over the years. He kicked out? What? Oh, this game is really fun. How's Rico kicking out of 2 Goldberg finishers? Oh, this game is just as fun as it was 20 years ago. If you haven't played this game in a while, or if you've never played it, I highly recommend this game. It's really fun. 1, 2, 3. Thank God. Next up we have PES 2013 Pro Evolution Soccer, and this one actually lets you choose between PAL or NTSC. When using NTSC, we get 60 frames per second, but we also get a slight white bar along the bottom of the screen. But anyway, for this game, let's test 60 frames per second. Once again, we'll play a very fair matchup. My team Arsenal against Motherwell. For the longest time, I've been playing football games on Xbox rather than PlayStation, so I'm not really sure which button is shoot and which button is cross. Okay, that's not shoot. Let's look at the frames per second. It feels incredibly smooth. Because this is an older football game, it's a little bit more arcadey than the simulators we have today. It actually feels smoother than the modern games. I'm not sure what button to press to run, so I'm a little bit slow. There's a jump button in this game. Jump when tackled. I don't think that's in modern games. Feint, 1-2 pass, Matthews feint, a running Matthews feint, a flip-flap, a reverse flip-flap. I just want to run. Oh, here's Arteta. He's the current manager of Arsenal in real life. This is back in his playing days. I really like this device for playing football games. Yesterday I was streaming EA Sports 25 on Game Pass. That's something that I'll make a follow-up video about soon. It was glorious. I really hope we can get some EA Sports FC games working on here natively without using Game Pass. That's something I'll continue to work on. I downloaded the most recent EA FC game, but it just crashes on startup. So I'm going to try some of the slightly older ones. Has to be. Oh! I refuse to stop playing until I score a goal. Get him! Uh-oh. I don't know which button is dive, so I'm going to push both sticks. Oh. Dive was not necessary. I will say, of all the game tests I've done so far on this device for YouTube, this has been by far the most fun video for me. WWE, Simpsons, PES, every game is just a banger. Oh, and if you're curious, we're running this at a 5 times native resolution. Gervinho, famous for his forehead. Go Gervinho! Oh, what a goal! Oh, we're suddenly lagging. The game can't handle that forehead size. So in conclusion, this game works absolutely flawlessly at 5 times native resolution, unless it's trying to display a giant forehead. Next up, we have Ridge Racer. I remember playing this at an arcade machine when I was a kid, so I'm excited to see how it runs on a small handheld device. This one we can run at a 3 times resolution, but at 5 times it slows down a little bit. At a 3 times native resolution, it looks fantastic. Next up we have Sly Cooper, a notoriously difficult game to run. At a 3 times native resolution, we're getting around 50 frames per second, but it jumps all over the place. If you see the frame per second counter, it goes from 50 to 40 to 38 to 55. It's very inconsistent. I've never played this game before, and the character moves really slowly. I feel like that might be the correct behavior, because it is a game about sneaking around, but it just feels like it's running very slow. But everything's smooth and the frame rate's good, so it's very confusing. Anybody who's familiar with the Sly Cooper franchise, please let me know if it is meant to feel very slow. See how even jumping is in slow motion? I feel like that cannot be right. So I'm not sure if it's meant to run this slowly or if there's a problem. If running this slowly is the correct behavior, then it's running well. If it's meant to be much quicker than this, then obviously something is wrong. So I do need to test this further, but it looks great and it feels smooth. This next game I'm very excited about because I saw a video yesterday claiming this is the worst game ever created. It is Mr. Bean the animated game. And look at his face. I was a fan of the Mr. Bean animated series. I can't even speak, this is so stupid. I was a fan of the Mr. Bean animated series. I thought it was funny. Obviously it's not nearly as good as the live action series because that's amazing, but I still thought it was funny. If you ever want to see Teddy in one piece again, bring me 750 cat biscuits. And it looks like I've got 3 teddies, like they're my lives. What is this game? I love the running animation. So the frame rate is about 25 frames per second, quite low compared to other games. We're running at a 3x native resolution. I'm going to bump it down to a 1x resolution just to see how it runs. So we're now at 1x, it looks a lot worse, but it feels smoother. It looks a lot worse and the frame rate is the same. So I feel like 26 frames per second is just what the game runs at. Back to 3x native resolution, everything looks really good at this resolution. And let's carry on with the game. I guess it's just a 25 frame per second game. You can push or pull a crate by grabbing it. Okay, how do I grab it? By just shoving my hands right through it, apparently. This is a bad game. We entered a new area and we're now running at around 14 frames per second with a little mole friend jumping around who hurts us and we lose a bit of our teddy. So we're going to have to drop the resolution down because apparently while all the other games we tested worked fine at 3 to 5 times native resolution, Mr. Bean is just too demanding of a title. I've moved it down to 2x and it's still not really very smooth. Moving down to 1x native resolution, we now have our smooth gameplay back. So of all the games tested in this video, they could all run at 3 to 5 times native resolution except Mr. Bean, which has to run at 1x. This game's pretty much just a 3D Mario game. I see no difference between this and Super Mario 64. Both masterpieces. I'm curious what it sounds like. Not very good. So the Mr. Bean game, I will give it 2 3/4 teddies out of 3 teddies. And I think this is as good a time as any to put the console away for a while. Thank you for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope it was helpful. Please leave me a like and a comment. If you're not subscribed, I'd love it if you subscribed. And I'll see you again tomorrow for another video about the Retroid Pocket 5. Thank you for watching. Hello everyone and welcome back to the Ryan Retro channel. Today we're going to be playing some Gamecube games. I was personally a very big fan of the Gamecube growing up, and I'm really looking forward to diving back into some of the games I loved as a kid. The first game we're testing today is The Simpsons Hit and Run, the same game I tested in my previous video on the PlayStation 2. In that video I mentioned how it runs better on the Gamecube than it does on the PlayStation. It's buttery smooth at 60 frames per second on the Gamecube. It feels really responsive and is delightful to play. Take that B! Next up we have F-Zero GX. I rented an F-Zero game when I was a kid from one of the rental stores, and I loved it so much. I've been searching for years to find out what game it was because I honestly can't remember. As I play this game, I think it might be this one. I was honestly never a big fan of racing games growing up, but I remember thinking that the F-Zero game was so cool because it's so futuristic. As you watch me smash into all the bends, you might be able to realize that I never played racing games very much. Hey, that's cheating! Ref! It seems like the game's running usually at 60 frames per second and sometimes dropping to around 48. It feels very smooth. I think anything around 50 frames per second and up feels very smooth to me. Okay, we finished 8th. Not too bad considering I haven't played the game in around 20 years. I'll take that. And let's move on to the next game. The next game is Super Monkey Ball. I had a demo of this as a kid that I used to like playing, but I never owned the full version. And during this test, I would like to point out how well the black bars blend into the rest of the chassis. When you hold the Retroid Pocket 5 at an angle, then you can see the disparity between the screen and the body. But when you hold it face on so that you're looking directly at the screen, the way you usually would play the game, it's almost impossible to see where the screen ends and the body begins. You have to really squint your eyes and try to find that seam. So I think Retroid have done an incredible job here with matching the color of the body to the screen, and it's one reason why I'd recommend getting the black version if you don't already have a color preference. I personally was going to get the purple version because I loved my GameCube, but then I remembered I had a black GameCube, so it makes sense for me to get the black one. We can play as Ai, Mimi, Baby, or Gon Gon. Aye, Captain! Okay, floor 1. Oh, this brings back some childhood memories. So in this game, you are a monkey trapped inside a clear ball, and you have to make your way around the course and get through the goal. And I'm just realizing now that these bananas are branded. These are actually Dole branded bananas. I ate this exact brand of banana yesterday. Oh, if only I still had it, I could show it on the screen. And it would be useful to show a banana for scale. That's definitely something coming in a future video, so watch out for that. So what happens if I just fall down this hole? Maybe it's a secret mode. Oh no. Okay, you're not meant to do that. Let's just play the game properly. We've got 58 seconds. I remember playing this demo as a kid and finding this game really hard. So I'm curious if I can play it better now that I'm older. I also seem to spy a ramp over there. Let's go! I think it tricked me. Oh, I lost the game. Nope, still difficult for me. Okay, let's try one more time, and this time I won't throw myself through holes and ramps. Oh, this looks fun. If you've never tried the Super Monkey Ball games, I do recommend giving them a go, because they're really nice to just pick up and have a bit of fun for a few minutes. You don't need to overthink anything, you don't need to try too hard. Just roll around in a big ball and have some fun. I've just realized I don't think you can move the camera. Most games you can move the camera with the right stick. This one, the only way to move the camera, I think, is to just turn around. I think it just follows from behind you. So the left stick is pretty much the whole game. The left stick is crucially important. That's what makes this game tricky. Because you're not only moving with the left stick, you're also moving the camera too. If you're someone who gets easily seasick, you might not like this game. Because it's just rocking all over the place. It feels like I'm at sea. 44 bananas left. Go, 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 go. I'm having a lot of fun playing this game. I do recommend trying it. Oh, one banana left. Where is it? Where is the banana? Oh, it's over there. Oh, you tricked me. No, I missed it. Did I get it? I think I missed it. Oh, that was so sad. I think I just went straight past it and off the map. Oh, no. This next game was potentially my favorite game on the GameCube and one that I was really excited to play on the Retroid Pocket 5, but unfortunately, there's a problem. So this is a golf game called Ace Golf. I think it went quite under the radar, and I think it was even listed in one of the top 20 most underplayed games on the GameCube. I think nobody except me played this, but I loved it. It's called Ace Golf, or the American version is Swingers Golf, and it's a really cute game where different golf characters have different abilities, and you can get different kinds of clubs which also give you different abilities. And you swing with the right stick, which was always really fun for me. If you swing to the side, then you shank it off to the side. You need to very accurately move the stick down and up in the middle. So I was really excited to play this and show it to you on the Retroid Pocket 5. The frame rate is perfect at 60 frames per second, but there's something wrong with the golf course. So I'm not going to actually tell you what's wrong. I'm just going to start the game and let's see if you guys can see what's wrong with this golf course. Are you noticing anything a little bit out of the ordinary? You'll see as I swing the club, it'll be reflected in the little C-stick icon here. As I move down, it moves down. If I move left and right, you can see that shown there to see how accurate I am. Oh, there we go, we got a good swing. And you can see the game is running flawlessly at 50 frames per second. I misspoke earlier and said 60. It's actually the PAL version, so it's 50. But the game is running absolutely perfectly. So I could see myself sinking hours into this game and finishing the whole campaign mode. But there is something a little bit distracting about the bright purple grass. I've looked through all the settings, I've changed everything that I can, I've played around with using the European version, the American version, they all behave the same. If anyone watching this has any idea how I could fix this color problem, please let me know, because I would love to play this game. If anyone has any tips, please share those with me. If I'm able to fix the problem, I'll definitely let everyone else here know how to fix it too. For now, I'm finding the game a little bit hard to focus on with the crazy color shift. Which is a shame, because this is a great game that I recommend you try if you like golf games. Next up we have Burnout 2 Point of Impact, the game that's telling me to drive on the wrong side of the road. This game is famous for its very dramatic crashes. It's a game that I really enjoyed in my childhood. I think this game was very popular with a lot of kids back then. Whoa, look at that! I think this was a very popular game because it was just so different to what else was out there. Compared to the other games of the time like Auto Modelista, Ridge Racer, and even Gran Turismo, this one was just so different. The way this game actually encouraged you crashing into other cars was just so outside of the box. So let me just channel my inner MKBHD for a second and see if I can get a nice big crash. Boom! Nice. Next up we have Little Red Plumbing Hood. This game is only running at 25 frames per second. I'm not sure if that's normal because it's the PAL version, but I would like to be running it at 50. It doesn't feel as smooth and fluid as the other games, so what I'll do is turn down the resolution and see if we can get any more frames out of this. For all the previous games, we were running at 3 times native resolution, 1080p. I'm going to turn this down to 1 time native resolution and see if it gives us any more frames. Now running at a low 1 time resolution, we're still stuck at 25 frames. So I believe this is something that I need to look into more. So I will do some more research on this topic and let you know in the future. By the way, all the tests in this video were done using the Dolphin emulator version 5.0-21383. This is the one that came pre-installed with the Retroid Pocket 5. I've not made any changes to it whatsoever, except increasing the internal resolution to 3 times native, 1080p for this video. I hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you for watching. If you'd like to pick up your own Retroid Pocket 5, please consider using my affiliate link in the description, which takes you to the official Retroid store where I bought mine. And again, of course, if you liked the video, please like, give me a comment, and subscribe. I'm so happy to see you guys every day. Hello everyone and welcome back to the Ryan Retro channel. Today in this video we're going to look at emulating the Wii on the Retroid Pocket 5. I actually already recorded a video about the Wii and had it all prepared and ready to upload, but there was a really big problem. I had graphical glitches in almost every game that I played, the same one that appeared in Ace Golf in yesterday's Gamecube video. But there's great news. I figured out how to fix it, and I'm going to tell you how to fix it too. For all of these tests, we're using Dolphin emulator version 5.0-21383. That is the one that came pre-installed on the Retroid Pocket 5. By default, it uses the Qualcomm drivers. If you've seen my secret console video, you'll know that I changed that driver to the turnip driver. We also need to do that inside Dolphin too. By going into the settings, going to graphic settings, scrolling down to GPU driver, here we can press install driver and choose the driver file you downloaded, and it will load up the turnip driver. And that will fix all of the graphical problems in the games, and they'll all run flawlessly. Once again, as I mentioned in my secret console videos, I recommend Turnip Driver 9v2. I will put the link to this in the description. This is the one that's worked the best for me so far and has had pretty much flawless results in almost any game I've tried. So definitely check out that driver and hopefully that will fix all your problems too. So now let's get into some Wii games. Our first game today is Fire Emblem Radiant Dawn. And as you can see, it's running beautifully. A perfect 60 frames per second, incredibly smooth. If you're a fan of this game, you're definitely going to be able to play this for hours on end with no issues whatsoever. Our next game is WWE 13. We're playing as John Cena, Big Match John, and we're wrestling the best wrestler of all time, Santino Marella. I seem to only be able to do this one move. Also, I just tried a practice game where I lost in about 10 seconds. Because Santino Marella got me in a submission move, and I don't know the button to kick out of the move. So I just lost right away. I'm not sure if you can see this, but there's some glitchy artifacting going on with Santino Marella's hair. It's pixelated, it's almost like it's censoring it, like we're not allowed to see this. Besides Santino Marella's hair being too hot for TV, it seems to be working really well. The frame rate is around 58 to 59 frames per second. It feels extremely smooth. I wouldn't know it wasn't 60 if I wasn't looking at the number. I'm curious how I can do my finishing move. I need to find out the buttons because I need to do my finishing move. So I found a suggested forum post saying, how the hell do I play this game? Yes, exactly. There we go. Oh, the finish is lagging. The game's very smooth except the finishing move. A pixelated haired man is no match for Big Match John. That was really fun. That was a good game. Let's move on to the next one. Next up, we have Dragon Ball Z Budokai 3. There are so many different people we can choose from to fight. I'm thinking either Vegeta or Tien. I was always a fan of Tien growing up, and I'm quite curious why there's a trademark sign next to his name. Teen Gohan also has a registered trademark as well. There's so many people I want to try. But let's go for Trunks' sword. I'm curious if he can use the sword, and I'm also curious if he can go Super Saiyan. Oh, here we are. Trunks' sword or Trunks Super Saiyan, but I want to go Super Saiyan in the match. Okay, we'll go for Super Saiyan Trunks, and we'll pick a very fair fight, and we'll fight against Hercule, who was just I remember in the anime he was just a TV star and not actually a fighter. I don't know any of the buttons in this game. I'm just going to smash them all and hope something good happens. We're at around 30 frames per second. It seems like it's a 30 frames per second game rather than a 60. So far, smashing all the buttons is going pretty well. This button is my sword. This button throws electric bolts at him. Oh no, he's going to hit me with the dynamic mess 'em up punch. It doesn't seem to be phasing me very much. Oh! That last one was painful. Present bomb. These moves are so cool. Where do I get moves like this from? I'm not sure how to do any special moves, but the game's fun. It runs at a very smooth 30 frames per second. Feels very smooth. It looks great as well. I'm pretty sure he just did 0 damage to me with his big move. And on that note, let's move on to the next game. This game should be Xenoblade Chronicles, but for some reason it just doesn't work. There's just a black screen. I'll keep working on it and trying to figure out what's wrong, but I thought I should show you this just to let you know that some games are still not working. We can't expect everything to work perfectly all the time. So I'll work on this more, and for now let's get into another game. This is Rayman Origins, a game that's perfect for this device. It honestly just kind of looks like an Android game at this point. Obviously it's quite an old game, but it looks like a premium Android game. Clearly a game that's perfect for the Retroid Pocket 5. It runs at a very smooth 60 frames per second, and I'm sure you could get a lot of enjoyment playing this game for a long time. Now for something a little bit different, we have Guitar Hero. I loved this game when I had my Wii. This is Guitar Hero 3. I had the white guitar controller and I thought it was amazing. Of course, for copyright reasons, I'm not going to be able to play the songs out loud, but I just want to show you that the controls do work, and it's also a good test of latency, because we can hit all the notes perfectly fine. I just need to try to remember what the controls are, because 4 of the buttons are the face buttons, and one of them is right on the D-pad. Of course, you can customize this, but for now, I'll just try and work with what I have. You'll see that I'm able to hit all of the buttons, as long as I can remember what they are. I'm not having any issues with latency, everything's really good. I played this game earlier off camera with the sound on, listening to the song. Everything sounded great, I had no issues hitting the buttons in time. It was fantastic. So this is another good real-world test of latency. Rhythm games are absolutely possible on the Retroid Pocket 5. I've had some comments saying that rhythm games have been unplayable on other devices because of the latency. That's definitely not an issue with the Retroid Pocket 5. They're completely playable. I have my star power ready. I'm not sure how to use it, and I'm too busy to use it. Oh, there we go, star power. So I guess star power is when you used to lift the guitar up and it used to go crazy, like wow, wow, wow. This was a really fun game, and even playing with the controls like this is fun too. One thing I do want to try is I want to see if I can get my hands on an actual Guitar Hero controller and try to hook it up to this. That would be a really fun test, I think. So yet another game working absolutely perfectly on the Retroid Pocket 5, and I think this is a good time to put the controller down and say thank you very much for watching this video, everyone. I hope it was helpful. Please remember my tip to use the turnip driver in the description of this video. If you liked the video, please give it a like, subscribe, and leave a comment. And if you'd like to buy a Retroid Pocket 5 for yourself so you can play some Wii games too, check out my affiliate link in the description. It'll take you to the official Retroid website, which is where I bought my one. Thank you once again for watching, and I'll see you again tomorrow. Thank you.